Oh,
Matt?
there you. Yep, I'm
Yep.
here.
Okay, we'll start in. It's coming. Wow, I feel like such an idiot. I have never done that, Matt. I accidentally clicked the close button, and the whale did it. That's what everybody's saying.
I've done, I've done that.
Hey guys, wow, this is a new one. I accidentally closed the live feed. I was trying to close my screen share and I hit the wrong button like an idiot. So I am sorry I caused disruptions for hundreds of people watching and all my guests. Rookie mistake. This is live show and live TV, YouTube TV. So this is what it is. I'm really sorry about that, guys. I have a feeling everybody will find their way back in here in a minute. Right now, I have Matt. And Matt, what do you think about the animal changes? Have you had people talk about that on your show?
No, actually, that is new to me. I've seen some videos, but I have not followed those changes. But the one you showed, I'm just not aware of that at all. It almost like I need a little bit more perspective on the whale, though, to really make a determination if that looks odd to me. It's a little bit of a close up.
Yeah, it's a odd shot, but I just saw people because what happens is I get lots of people who email me and say, "Hey, man, what's going on with all this new stuff?" And I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not a well, marine biologist. I'm not sure what the whale's nose used to look like. So I throw it out there and I ask people, "Hey, do you guys remember this or not?" And so I'm checking now in the chat to see what's going on, uh, if they remember this whale or not. And he says, "Back to the nose. A lot of people whale watching. No, it was a blowhole. So this is going to freak me out a little bit." Yeah, some people are saying it was a blowhole. That's a strange one, right? So blowhole, blowhole. I don't know enough about whales. Anybody else in the chat is saying it is. It was a blowhole. It was a blowhole. And I'm talking about the blue whale. So if you got an opinion on that, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I just did a Google search really quick just because I had to do something. They're saying it's split. We have several, the blue, the gray, the bow, head, whatever, 2 holes. And then they said the sperm whale, beluga whale, and dolphins have single holes. So it might just be that somebody is picking up that they're unaware of certain species have 2 and some have 1. But then again, we know Google and we know that things can be manipulated. I always remember whales in general having 1 hole, especially in children's stories and stuff. But as per Google, as it stands at the moment, it's split. There's about 4 or 5 with 2 holes and about 1, 2, 3 that have a single hole. That's
Okay.
what I looked up while we were doing.
Why I crashed the show. I did that on purpose so we could take a break. No, I really didn't. Let's talk about the next guy here in the window. And this one has been making the rounds all over. This guy is the the shoebill stork. I have never seen a shoebill stork. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It looks like like he smiles, I guess. Chat, if you guys have ever heard of this thing, chime in, and I'm trying to find out what this is. Anybody seen this thing?
Nope.
No, never.
Almost looks dinosaur era.
Well, this is why I'm asking, because we have so many international viewers that'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's been out in my backyard. I know what these guys are." But
yeah,
a lot of people in the Mandela Effect community saying this bird did not exist and now it does.
That's
so
weird looking.
Where are we at on that? Anyone else in the panel want to jump in?
I've never seen it, but remember, people with the Mandela Effect, if people know of that stork, it will have always existed in their reality. In other words, it's not going to be new to those people. It's going to be new to only those that are affected by the Mandela Effect.
Well, how's it going to affect all the pregnant women out there that are waiting? Anyone have an opinion? Because, that's how babies are made on this show. Or is that changing this
hopefully
reality?
Not too long.
The storks still bring babies.
Well, actually, I saw a picture of this bird, like I think it was a year or a year and a half ago, but I wasn't woken up to the media yet, so I don't know one way or another. But that picture you showed just before the feed crashed about the whale. It's actually the first thing animal related that I say, wow, that wasn't like I remembered it. So I just wanted to get that one in.
Yeah, that one got a big reaction, Raphael, from the chat room. There was a lot of people saying, "No, man, that blue whale only had a blowhole. It did not have a nose on top of the blowhole."
That's right. It only had a blowhole in my reality. So.
All right. Good to know. I mean, I don't usually do this, but I think it's kind of fun tonight to just run through these pictures because why not? As long as I don't crash everything again. Here we go with the next one. This animal here. This is one called maned wolf. It is pretty much a vegetarian wolf that eats wolf apples. It really doesn't eat meat much. I've never heard of a vegetarian wolf, but
no.
Vegan warrior, maybe this is up your alley here. You ever heard of this guy? No, he's shaking his head.
Never seen that. It looks more like a
jackal,
fox.
right?
Or a jackal, yes.
Yeah, the chat room, anyone ever seen this before? Could you guys weigh in here?
But
everybody's still talking about the blue whale.
Does it eat feces of other animals, or does it actually eat vegetables?
It eats things called, which is funny, they call them wolf apples. It's most of its diet is vegetables. It will eat a little meat, but not much. It mainly survives on vegetables. What's interesting is, we might have to get the Christians to talk about that too, is there were some people saying there was a time in the past where there were no carnivores. It was nothing but people that ate plants, and all the animals ate plants. They didn't eat each other. And at this point, this maybe is going the other direction. Are animals going to stop eating animals, and we're going to start getting vegetarian dogs? And I don't know, vegetarian cats. What's going to happen? Who knows? So yeah, people are just like really confused about that one. No one has a good answer. So I'm just going to put.
Yeah, that's it's very strange because animals, I mean, they need protein. Like I've never heard of an animal like that that's a vegetarian. It's not the animal itself, but the concept is completely foreign. I mean,
dogs can live on vegetables, but cats can't. Cats are true carnivores, but dogs are omnivores. You can actually feed a dog potatoes and it'll live just fine. But it's not really their choice.
Well, it would still need, like the human being, I mean, it would still need a certain amount of essential amino acids, complete protein. It would have to combine its vegetables, I would assume, just like a human being has to combine its vegetables to get the 8 essentials we need.
Did I open Pandora's box here? Is Vegan Warrior about to jump in and tell us all that?
Yeah, he should be telling us, right?
That's not true. You can make your own proteins. Go ahead. Oh, I don't know if his mic's not working.
My mic is not working.
No, raise your volume.
He'll have to raise his volume and figure that out, and we'll let him have the floor when he gets that figured out.
Well,
all right, here's my next one.
Did you want to comment on that wolf?
Oh, go ahead, Sam. Did you want to say something?
No, I did see that on the internet recently, but never did have that in the reality that I was from. There is another wolf, half coyote, half wolf, that the news recently reported on here in the U.S., which they claim there's now over 1 million of these hybrids between a coyote and a wolf. Never had those in my previous reality either. They're showing, I believe, the story behind that is that it's South American in its geography where it exists. So the longer legs, the fox look to it. Yeah, got a bizarre. The only other mammals are the pandas that have a tendency to. We assume they should be meat eaters, but
yeah. Well, I'm just saying. The point is I'm throwing it out there. If anyone's ever heard of this, because there's thousands of species that are really not talked about and undiscovered. And have these always been here, or are these new to this reality? Here's another one called the tree kangaroo. It's people describe it as half sloth, half monkey. I have never heard of a tree kangaroo. If you guys down under, where did Chris go? I was trying to get Chris to give me his opinion on that. Maybe he will in the room. Yeah. What do you guys think of this one?
Again, never heard of it before.
I have two thoughts on this. You know, we do such splicing, and they could be doing, you know, just to do devil's advocate for a second, we could be having these animals as part of Mandela Effect, and that other people know it, we don't. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and
we also have so many scientific, you know, genetically, you know, but I'll tell you what, the wolves that they're coming out with is no surprise biblically with that change. And I'm not a super Christian biblical person, but I find that odd that they would have a, you know, especially like Sam said, there's more than one species of wolf kind of fox kind of thing coming out in that lineage of animals.
So you're leaning though that it could be a chimera, something made. I'm just throwing it up here, guys, because I am not trying
to. Anything is possible.
I'm literally crying wolf here by showing a new wolf. I'm saying this because people keep bringing it up in the Hangouts, and they're like, "Man, have you seen this animal? Have you seen that animal?" So I am telling you, I do not know, and I'm throwing it out there to see kind of where people are on this.
Well,
I do want to ask Chris, because he is from down under. Do you recognize what I was showing before?
Yep.
What is it? Let me put him back up here.
It's a marsupial that hangs around in a tree, and there's so many marsupials that hang around in trees.
Has he always been part of Australia, or is this like a new one that you guys are kind of scratching your head and be like, I've never heard of a tree kangaroo?
Yeah, I've not really heard of it, but looking at it, it's not really a monstrosity like that monkey. The apple. Was it the apple wolf before?
It's so ridiculous.
I thought he was cool. All right. I'm going to bring up the big one, and Moneybags is probably going to chime in because I thought he's addressed this. The one that comes up the most, everybody say it with me, narwhals. Did narwhals exist? Did they not? Now they exist. What is going on with narwhals? I want to hear from Moneybags because I'm pretty sure he did this first.
Okay, can you hear me?
Barely. You'd have to speak really loud.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the mic. I tried to turn it up. Anyway, narwhal, I did not do a video on. I've never heard of a narwhal in my entire life, which I can't imagine. But I never heard of it until last year. There's tons of I've been searching Mandela Effect every day for probably almost a year now. And I've seen 30, 40 plus animals that I've never seen before. I don't do videos on them because I don't know every single animal on the planet. So I don't do videos on that. Or the people who were dead who are alive now. I've never done a video on that. I guess Jim Neighbors is like a huge one for me, but I just never really covered that either. But as far as the animals, I've seen so many that people have been bringing up the past 12 months that I had never seen, and it's bizarre.
Is that weird mole rat thing?
Yeah, there's so many of them. I just shake my head every time because I've never seen any of these things, and I feel like I'm on another planet.
The first time I remember seeing narwhals was because I'd seen these old pictures of them, like sailors drew, and I never knew they were real. And then all of a sudden I saw a Futurama episode in like 2005 or 6 where Fry falls in love with a narwhal. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe this is a cartoon thing that's on there. Then they start showing up all over cartoons, but I don't remember them as being real until
they were in the world I was from. I remember learning about them back in 7th, 8th grade in school, and that's what 50 some years ago. So, or 40 some, but anyway, the interesting story about those you might enjoy is that the original sailors in the 1600s who had gone out searching for the Fountain of Youth, as well as a short route to India, like Columbus, they would come back with this narwhal. It's basically like an ivory tooth. And they would present it, one of them presented it to the Queen of England as a unicorn horn. which is
Oh.
partly why there was this belief there were really unicorns somewhere. Anyway, that's it.
Well, I actually remember it from school too, so it was on my reality. It existed also.
Yeah, people are saying they don't even know what it is. I'm going to go ahead and screen share this for a sec.
Can you hear me?
I was just gonna
It's a
say,
medium-sized whale that has a tooth that grows out the right side of its mouth, which
I'm
is
putting a
what the
picture
horn
up
is.
so people
Sure.
can see it.
And it
Can you guys
spirals
hear
as it
me?
grows.
Yeah, I can hear you now, Vegan.
I can hear you, Vegan.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Here's a bunch of shots of narwhals if you've never seen one. They call them like unicorns of the sea. You can see them
Yeah.
kind of like jousting with their horns and everything. So hopefully you guys can see that. If you don't
Well,
know what one is.
Well, I'm not shocked about any of this, primarily because we're so detached from nature and from the animal kingdom that it could be all types of stuff that's out there. But going back to what we talked about earlier, as far as the diet of some of these animals, one of the things we should know is that about 75% of all animals are vegan or vegetarian in nature. 75%. We focus on the carnivores that are about 25%. And also primates are 80% vegetable and fruit eaters. And they only eat about 20% meat. Mankind is sort of opposite. We're 80% meat eaters and we consume about 20% of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. So it's not unheard of to know that wild animals are primarily vegetarian or vegan.
Interesting. But
Right,
that
yeah.
family
Because
is
let's
carnivoric.
just hypothesize this out there just for fun. If the Earth is really getting a higher vibration, and things are happening, do you really think it's going to affect all the life forms here? Like, will animals all of a sudden also vibrate higher? I know humans are starting to vibrate higher. It's really screwing up a lot of people who do energy medicine and energy work. Like, I have machines that run on the Schumann frequency at 7.83, and I don't know if I should use them anymore because it's like, our body's still 7.83 because the Earth's not 7.83 anymore. The Schumann resonance somewhere in the 30s. So, like, if I put this machine on someone, will it actually be detrimental?
Yep.
It'll bring them back to a lower vibration. It's like, I don't even understand what's going on with the vibrations. So let's talk about vibrations. Would it affect everything on the Earth? Would all of a sudden the animals stop killing each other, or would stuff evolve all of a sudden?
Well, can I comment on that?
Yeah, man, jump on in. This is your territory.
I think first we need to define what vibration is. As far as the animals and
Resonance.
things in nature, they're already in tune. If anybody's out of tune, it's mankind.
Absolutely.
So
would they adjust if
changes.
the Earth frequency is getting higher? Would they match it? Because right now, life matches the Earth frequency. That's the way it works, man.
Outside of mankind, what else needs to be adjusted?
I'm
everything.
not really explaining this well. There's
No,
an Earth frequency that. You're with me.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm saying, will everything tune into those frequencies and go higher? You're saying the animals are already always tuned in.
Yeah, anything in nature is exactly how it's supposed to be. The question is mankind what it's supposed to be? Are we in tune with nature? And if there needs to be an adjustment, I think that adjustment is with us, not the rest of everything outside of us.
So, Vegan, you don't think there's evolution in the species themselves, that they won't have a certain evolution in their own species, that they won't come into a higher form of their own consciousness?
Evolution is a man-made construct.
Yes and no.
I just call it nature.
Yes and no.
I call it
nature.
nature.
But it's affecting nature. We're affecting nature. Look at what these insects are doing and what we've done to their they follow the magnetics and the ley lines. We're messing them up, so they're being affected.
So the only adjustment in this world is us.
Yeah.
Hey, Vegan, are you aware of the
Or
work of
they
Dolores
evolve.
Cannon?
Wait, guys, I want I want Evan's trying to say something to vegan, but he's hard to hear. Go ahead, Moneybags.
Vegan, are you aware of the work of Dolores Cannon?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay, so I tend to agree that the planet's vibration is increasing as reinforced by that. Can't recall the name of it now. What was that resonance? Taryn,
The Schumann resonance.
Schumann.
Yeah, the Schumann resonance is increased. I believe the planet's increasing. You think it's just automatic that nature and the animals and everything will just rise with any increase in the planet's vibration then?
I think
so. Opposed to,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's all right. Go ahead.
No,
Are you asking me or vegan? Vegan?
I was asking vegan if he just
Yeah,
said
go
this
ahead.
is automatic for nature and the animals just to increase with the planet if the planet is raising its vibration and frequency.
Okay, when I speak of nature, I'm speaking of everything that is natural, all right? And I think when you look at our world and we look at what is operating outside of a natural state, and it all has to do with mankind. If there's any adjustment, change in frequency or whatever, it's for the purpose of getting mankind in tune with that which is reality of true nature. I don't think the work that everything outside of us needs to move up to where we are. I think we up to where that is. In my opinion, you know, I think we've fallen below the conscious, the ultimate consciousness. Animals by default are a part of that. The planet is by default is a part of that. I think we have a choice to be a part of it or not. And for the most part, throughout our history, we have chosen to pull away from nature. And that's where the imbalance occurs. And we're in a state of imbalance. So to balance mankind, we need to make changes. And if we don't make changes, we're going to suffer even more.
But I mean, the problem is you say Earth is already in balance, but it's the frequency of Earth, it's the human frequency that is rising, and so the animals and us have been always living at that human frequency, and now it's rising. And I think the question is, are the animals naturally rising too, and are we just do we have the choice to rise or to stay down?
I don't think so. I think
if they don't raise their vibration, this is why we're having mass extinction, I don't know.
Exactly.
It could go both
I think
ways.
that's all tied in. All the huge extinction,
yeah.
the mass die-offs. I covered that on a blog. I had like hundreds of them. There's all these whales off the west coast of South America and dolphins.
The
and
bees,
just mass die-offs. The bees,
and a lot of it,
the birds.
a lot of it is connected to us.
Do you think that maybe
I know it all comes down to us.
These mass die-offs, Evan, these mass die-offs, are you saying that they couldn't adapt to the new frequency and it screwed them up and they died, or do you think they already just moved to the next Earth that's coming and they checked out and they're already there?
I didn't know what was happening. I had that blog back in 2011, 2012. I was blown away by the mass die-offs. I thought it was all connected with 2012. And I documented, I don't know, 100+ cases of, in Beebe, Arkansas, I think it was, blackbirds just falling out of the sky in 2011. And then it happened again the following year. And then there's all this mass die-offs of millions and millions of fish, where there's at different places around the planet. I don't know if you're all aware of it, but it's been going on now for like 5 years and it never stopped. I stopped watching and following it, but I found someone who never stopped following it. He's documented like 600-700 cases of mass die-offs. So yes, I think it's all connected to, but now from what I've learned, I think it's connected to the raising of the frequency of the planet. Yeah.
Do you think they're actually going to, like, these species are going to be at the new Earth, or do you think they're going to stay, like, they're already there, that's why they're dying here, or do you think they really just died off, that was their purpose in this fake reality was, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if
I'm
I have.
done.
I don't know. I don't know if I have that answer.
Can
I
I
don't know if their
give one from-
consciousness shifted to a new Earth already. Or
All right,
whatever.
I want to let our actual guest of the hour speak a little here. Matt, what's your opinion on all this?
Well, the one question I had regarding the mass die-offs is, why isn't the simplest answer potentially the real answer? We killed them all. I mean, I don't mean to be dark, but I mean, when you look at Fukushima, when you look at the amount of Monsanto chemicals, glyphosates, things dumping into the rivers, oceans, streams, it is, I mean, the bees, especially, the bees make sense. There's so many chemicals put in so many different places. The bee die-off of honeybees is simply man-made to me. Now, I hope these animals are, you know, in a better place, but I honestly, I'm sorry to take the dark explanation here. I believe we are killing them.
It's
Okay.
not dark, it's real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just wanted
We're
to.
right,
There's,
man.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You just want to say something else? Okay.
No, I was just saying Matt could be right. No, that's, you know,
I mean,
can see where
yes.
his point.
Simplest answer. I mean, I hate to think of it that way, but yeah, humans are pretty terrible to the planet. So, yeah.
Well, there is quite a bit of science to kind of verify that hypothesis. I was watching a show this week, and earlier they were talking about how if a ecology of a specific area is suddenly loses one of the species, and they were talking about specifically little tree frogs that sang a certain song from that area, another species will move in to match that resonance for that the life, even the plant life of that area to be healthy. Same thing with studies they did on what's going on with the Schumann resonance, or the frequencies of humanity. When we are fearful, we have a resonance that drops slightly below 7.8. When we are feeling loving, our brain emits a resonance that is around 15.3 to 15.6. I found that kind of interesting correlation, but it does seem to be, based on science observations, that there is sort of an osmotic or osmosis effect, and in a way it works like the way we think of air pressure. When the air pressure changes and we have a storm coming in of drops, our bodies will automatically adjust internally, simply because the pressure is trying to equalize. So if the resonance of the planet is also being, whether it's artificial or not, we can expect that our bodies will comply with that, because what we generate is so small in relation to the effect the planet is doing to us. Now, finally, on that topic, there is some evidence to indicate that there are these mass deaths are occurring from secondary causes. So, for example, the fish that died out west, people were saying there are many different examples, but in looking at the science of those who studied why did these fish die, first thing happened was they got disoriented and ended up in a location they didn't belong. Now that might be related to the pole shift thing happening. If you do much studying on that, you'll see that not only does it occasionally shift from where it is to other places, but CERN plays a role in that, or the other colliders, when they turn them on, they're such huge magnets. Another factor is that naturally the Earth's supposed to flip over every 700,000 years, and we're like 80,000 years past that point. And so it starts developing multiple core spins with north poles in 6 or 7 locations around the planet. And all these animals that migrate have this little patch of cells in their brain that are like homing beacons. So they're disoriented, possibly because of this effect. And again, we might be influencing that with all the microwaves we do besides these other factors I've mentioned. And then when they get disoriented, like the fish, it turns out when they go up in this little bay, the bay does not have enough water movement for dissolved oxygen in the water, so they literally suffocate themselves just by
Yeah.
virtue of the amount of numbers they have in that small area.
Thank you,
That's-
Sam. I got to reel it back in here for a minute, but that was
Yeah, that was it.
insightful. Thank you.
So
I
we
want to roll this into more talk about frequency, because I think that's an important topic. So I'm going to go around the room, and we're going to find out one of the biggest things that keeps coming up, and a big thing that I harped on my show. I think I was one of the first people really talking about that the frequency has doubled on the Earth. Now, for you guys that are maybe new to this and you don't know what the heck we're talking about, the Earth has its own frequency. It's its own kind of pulse or heartbeat. When you have a sphere inside a sphere, it creates a difference, and that, since they've been measuring it since recorded time, has been 7.83. What happened is all the bodies and all the life forms here, including the animals and the humans, they started running at this frequency. The body cells like 7.83. Everything has kind of adapted to that since we've been measuring it. So that was our normal for a long time, and then all of a sudden, about 2014, it starts changing, and then recently it's more than tripled what it's supposed to be, and people are watching this thing go up and down, and it just keeps getting higher for longer times. And some people are saying maybe that's why their body feels so weird and it's sick, or their ears are ringing. They can actually hear a frequency. The Earth's frequency is getting higher. That's not in dispute. The question is why. So I'm going to pass it around the room. Let's start with Down Under. Chris, give us your opinion. Give me since we have so many people, keep it under like a minute. What do you think's going on with the Earth frequency?
Okay. I'm just going to mention something about the resonance of the bees dying and things like that. Can people out there watch a documentary on YouTube called Resonance Beings of Frequency? I tried to put that up on here, and it's in reverse, so it's hard to see. I can't write in reverse, so. So yeah, beings. Resonance Beings of Frequency. Watch that video, and it'll explain a lot of electromagnetic frequencies affecting bee navigation. They're probably doing it underwater as well, and things like that. Anyway, getting back to the question again. It's a hard one. Yes, things are going to be vibrating higher, and basically, how you said earlier, Taryn, about the frequency going higher, and if you want to play somebody the Schumann resonance, is it too low? Well, it's still going to be in harmony, so it'll be fine, still playing the Schumann resonance. And apparently cats, when they purr, are like a diesel engine. They're like the same hertz.
Well, you got to, the reason I'm bringing this up too, and I'm going to throw this out there to the group too, is there's a lot of musicians in the Mandela Effect community. I guess it affects a lot more right brain people. And they're saying that when they tune A, like to 440, it's not 440 anymore. It sounds off. That their regular tones that they heard change. So I'm wondering also if this is the Earth changing. I'm going to throw this over to Moneybags. You're next in line. Give us your opinion.
Well, I believe that what's happening is a purification that was talked about by ancient cultures going back 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years. They all said that 2012, things have changed. We're sitting here having this roundtable, basically, from my opinion, what's gone on from 12 date that all the ancient civilizations were pointing towards. So we look at time as like hours and days, and time doesn't really exist. Everything's happening now. So, but we can't just say, well, I'll be there sometime. You have to say, I'll be there tomorrow at 6 or something. You can't just, so but we don't know the time of the cosmos. We've lost that time. A lot of it, I think,
sundial
is from religion and church, because anyone who brings up astrology or the cosmos, a lot of times, that's evil, it's the devil or whatever. So I think that we've lost that, and I think this is just part of a 26,000 year cycle of a purification that the Incas talked about, the Mayans, the Egyptians. That's my opinion. This was just, it's a normal process. And, you know, it's just amazing to us because it's not, you know, it hasn't happened in such a long time.
All right, let's move to the next person. Let's jump over to Raphael. What do you think about all this?
Well,
Reggie, go ahead.
I'm actually glad he brought up the ancient cultures, because I'm gonna take the Mayan calendar with this. There's only talk about 2012, but as I remember it from a documentary, the Mayan calendar, it didn't stop. It just changed, but it was like the fifth or the sixth time that this thing happened. So maybe this frequency going up, maybe it's something cyclical that happens every once and again. It happens, and there is, I heard talk about purification. I mean, maybe this is just the natural cause of things. And in that respect, when I was talking on the international show, I heard Lindsay, who just came in here. I heard her talk about the oral history of the native tribes, and she was talking specifically about the American ones. I'm talking about the entire world, that they had this thing happen in the past, and I took it back all the way to the beginning, because I was thinking about the Big Bang theory, and not about the TV series, but which is a wrong name, because it's actually an expansion of the universe. And I was thinking, well, the scientists, they have the big problem with the Big Bang is that in their mathematical models of the Big Bang, normally we should have had the same amount of matter and antimatter, and they should have annihilated each other. And my thinking was, they are breaking their heads over a theory why there was an imbalance and why matter actually won it, and why we exist. And I was thinking about Lindsay's story about in the past this having happened. What if the imbalance of this was actually the first Mandela effect ever happened? And from there on, you know, the planets and the universe started, and then the frequencies started, and in a cyclical form, these frequencies will go up and down again, and up again and down again. So
gotcha. All right, I'm gonna have to jump to the next guest. Thank you, Raphael. Matt, you got an opinion on this from Texas?
Oh yeah, of course.
Give us your opinion on why is the Earth frequency going up?
Yep, sorry to be dark again, but
no, do it.
You look outside chat rooms like this, human beings are generally being dumbed down. I mean, we look at the debauchery, we look at the loss of moral compass in the society. We are being dumbed down. Therefore, we are being held back by whatever you would call our puppet masters. I believe this is real. There's something called HAARP. It's real. It bombards the ionosphere to heat it up. Who knows what's going on? But I truly believe that there are people and dark forces that work on this planet that are trying to hold us back. I believe it is man-made.
All right.
Have a look at my icon.
Yeah, there you go. Vegan, you're next in line. Where are you at on this? What's up with the frequency?
Well, earlier you described it as a sphere within a sphere, right? So there's from the core of the Earth, right?
It's actually the pressure that's created between the two spheres. It's like a plasma ball.
Right. So my question or my comment is, when did we get to the core of the Earth? Have we had expeditions to drill down to get to the core of the Earth? Everything that science is talking about is a theory and it's speculation. And I think too often we accept scientific claims as truths when really they're theories at best. Yeah. I know for a fact that we have not drilled no more than 8 kilometers down. That's not even further through the first layer of crust, but they have an entire explanation of what's beneath it, even though we've never been there.
Yeah,
So
I mean, honestly, the frequency could be coming from the center of the Earth or some sort of thing down there resonating a machine. We have no clue. We just have to take faith that all this stuff, that there is an Earth core, you know, or there's so much stuff that's taught to us that we're just supposed to accept, that I have no idea where these people came up with it, you know? I agree.
Well, science does that a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, they come up with, and it's nothing wrong with theorizing, but the problem is when you accept theories as absolute truths, that's when we get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, what do we know? We know that industry, agriculture is polluting our planet. And what I mean by polluting, a lot of the soil is polluted, even just for growing food. We know this for a fact. So I like to sort of err on the side of the stuff we do know versus the speculation of the things we don't know. My opinion.
All right, Gabrielle, what do you got?
I'm going to go a little spiritual here, because I have, I'm a daisy flower. I think it's everything. I think it is what Moneybags is talking about, with it being cyclic. I believe with Matt being a little bit with the negative, that we are repressed, we're oppressed. We have all these scientific fuckery, if you will. I'm sorry. That's messing with our everything. But I also think there's a spiritual nature to this. Whether you don't have to be Christian, you know, religious. It's a spirit in our spirit and in our DNA. And we have so much junk DNA. I think that as this cycle is happening and the purging is happening, and we're trying to be oppressed from becoming more awakened and enlightened and in a higher consciousness and a higher state of mind, and not so lower vibrational mind and a manifesting mind, so that our world will be a better place.
Got it. So
unfortunately, there's a lot that's going on.
Yeah.
That is. We're sacrificing to get to a higher consciousness. There's a lot of sacrificing that's going on. That's my bottom line.
There you go.
I think we put that call out. We put a call out to that a long time ago, and now we're manifesting it on a level. But we're paying for it. We're paying for it. The animals are paying for it. Our planet's paying for it, and this is just a smashed result. That's how I look at it. It's too much to say one particular thing.
Thank you. Sam, you're next. Let's go to your side, and then I'm going to give Lindsay a chance to talk here too. So try to keep it under 2 minutes. I always have to crack the whip on Sam. He just keeps going.
Yeah.
I need to let you come on here by yourself, to let you just have the floor for a while.
Well, you know, I did hear a theory recently about one of the possible effects of Planet X coming closer to ours is that those gravity waves will in fact affect our Earth's core. So that is viable. In addition, as some of the other guests have said, or panelists, there is a lot of science indicating that there's a coordinated effort. All these different factors that were mentioned, if it is, and those efforts are to control the society, obviously a lower IQ'd society is going to be a little easier to get the crowd to go where you'd like it to go. But for those who it affects differently, like ourselves, who see what seems to be going on and don't have the same effects that we see in the general population, I'm wondering if that also is intentional, that there's a certain design of mind or a certain spirit that we have that causes us to be excluded from the general treatment and puts us in a secondary category, but yet nevertheless intentional. So yeah, I hear y'all, and I've tried to explore each of those theories to see what evidences there are out there to either deny or verify.
I agree.
Do you mean the chosen ones, Sam?
Chosen to do what? That's the thing, you know. I mean, are they going to use us to help the others accept it?
Yeah.
Well, I think some people think that, you know, like they call it a collective consciousness. You can also say it's a collective frequency, collective vibration. that if a lot of people start moving a little more towards the positive side, a higher vibration, that it does bring the whole place up. And then the flip side is some people are saying the Earth's going to do it no matter what we do. It's going higher, and that's happening. I mean, the frequency's changing, and that we're either going to adapt or we're going to be like those animals that go extinct. We're just gonna you're just going to get sicker and sicker and go out. So, you know, maybe it's going to force people to start being positive, or you're going to just get burned. You're going to get sick and die. Let me give it over to Lindsay. I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, Taryn. Congratulations on 38,000 subs now, buddy. Awesome.
Oh, yeah. My channel's been hopping since we've been doing these live shows. I appreciate that. But I want to give Lindsay a chance to speak. Lindsay, take the floor for a minute or two. Oh, is her mic not working again? It's like her curse. Lindsay?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, take it.
Okay, yeah, I've had a couple thoughts while I was listening to everybody else. Well, the first thought that I had, I mean, you know, kind of to take this to a little bit of a philosophical level, is that I'm actually coming to the mind where I actually don't believe that this Mandela effect is this kind of like little inclusive ball that exists inside of our realm of understandings. I actually think that this is just a piece of a larger phenomenon, something that's actually more multi-dimensional than just what we're perceiving it as. So, you know, like, I mean, I don't know why, and perhaps this is an intuitional thing. I've been feeling really moved, and I've been gravitating more towards paying attention. When I brought up the question of Mandela effect amongst people I know and in my community, the first thing that I was met with, the first subject I was met with, well, you know, why do I need to think about books and movies? Why do I need to think about that? I just need to look outside. I need to see that all of a sudden this earth and these natural cycles look far different than anything we have ever known. It almost is its own Mandela effect. Even though, okay, fine, we can come up with various theories and reasons, climate change, you know, all of these things that could explain why it's happening. There is actually no one conclusive answer to that either. Right. Just like with any Mandela effect, there's no conclusive evidence of why it's happening and what exactly it is. Now, as for whether this is a result of these nefarious attempts by, you know, these powers that be and these bodies of, like, you know, scientists and you know, like organizations and their CERN and their HARP and all of those things, I don't doubt those exist. I don't doubt that they have an influence. I don't doubt that they're working on some level with the intention of control and dominance. I don't doubt that, because it would merely mimic the long-standing timeline that we currently exist on. You know, and I mean, for me, that's informed by a history of colonization and a history of many great oppressions that have sprouted from very, very old roots of, you know, bad ideas and dysfunction and unhealed selves and unhealed people who really their only way of dealing with reality was to form some kind of control over it and over others and to be dominant. So does it surprise me that there may be, you know, peoples out there who have garnered great power over generations that now are trying to enforce this control, like, worldwide? No, I don't doubt that at all. However, here's where my beliefs kind of begin to unfold, and that is that, you know, regardless of that dysfunction, regardless of those nefarious intentions, they're human. They're people. We are subject to limits in this realm. We are subject to conscientious limits. We actually can't comprehend the whole of what the universe is or what the multidimensional reality is. We can, however, tune in to a consciousness that can have an awareness of it. But as for whether we can translate that into words in this three-dimensional realm, it's actually impossible. How do you translate the 12th dimension? Tell me. I don't think there's one on this earth who can do that.
Lens, and I appreciate the thoughts, but I have to let everybody speak. I appreciate that. That was deep, and we got all over the place on frequency. Lots of different views. The chat room. It's funny every time someone says something that someone in the chat will be like, "Yeah, that's my guy." So you'll get your favorites that you agree with, and I suggest you go over to their channels and look. I will post links. Most of the people here have some sort of channel, and hopefully you'll get a chance to do that. One of the questions that keeps coming up in the comments and chats is, have your dreams changed? A lot of people are saying they're more lucid. Some people saying all of a sudden they stopped dreaming. I want to know, has the Mandela Effect changed your dreams? Let's go through the room real quick. And also I want to see what the chat room says. And Vegan, have you noticed any difference in your sleep or dreams?
No.
You're the same
I'll
as
keep
ever.
it simple for you.
Okay.
Same as ever.
Matt, you noticed anything since the Mandela Effect started? Have your people on your channel talked about that, or?
No, absolutely no changes at all. Still, there's a major test coming, and I've got about 3 minutes to prepare for it. No change.
Oh, what do you mean? No, you're going to go to sleep in 3 minutes?
No, in my dream, I'm in some sort of classroom, and I haven't studied it. It's a frustration loop.
You still have the same dream over and over about going to class and not being ready and prepared. That's so funny that it is such a universal stressful dream. The oh my gosh, I didn't study. I can't tell you how many people, or the one where you're naked in class. That's a good one.
I haven't had that one, but no changes here.
Okay. All right. What about Raphael? Have you seen anything different?
Well, I'm gonna give you a little thing from the past first. I had the ability to remember almost all my dreams, and then I had, when I was 12 or 13 or so, I had one bout of sleep paralysis, and I seem to have lost that ability to remember my dreams. And now, just the other day, just 2 or 3 days ago, 2 days in a row, I remembered my dreams again. But it was just, at the moment, it's just 2 times, so I don't know if it's ME related or anything.
So you haven't remembered your dreams since childhood, and then just recently you started?
Recently, I had 2 days in a row that I remembered them again, but just two times. So
interesting, though. I mean, it's been a couple years, you know. I mean, that's just like 30 years.
It's a lot of years.
All right. Let's roll down the line. Sam, do you anything different in your dreams?
Yeah. I have experienced less dreaming. I used to lucid dream and vividly dream, but it was always interesting that in those dreams, even though I knew what was being said, I never actually heard sounds, and but yet there was communication, and same with smells and tastes. And I had one very unusual dream recently. It was very brief that I did remember. And I was laying in a bed in a home that I grew up in, sleeping very comfortably. And I was sort of waking up in my dream and rolling over, and I heard this very bizarre breathing. And it scared me a little bit, like, what the heck kind of creature is that? And this is the first time I ever dreamed this, but I felt like I just became this fluid soul that sort of slinked off melted off the end of my bed. And I was looking over to see where's this little creature breathing in the dark. And as I stood up, I actually came to be awake in this reality, and it was just my girlfriend snoring next to me.
The creature was your girlfriend when it all came. And I'm with you. I've had dreams so real, man, so real that when I wake up, I'm out of this reality. I don't think my mind has come to this body. There's just like mass confusion for about a minute, and then I wake up and I'm like, okay, it's the cat in the bed or whatever. But holy cow, my dreams are just insanely strong now. But I want to jump over to who's next in line. Lindsay here.
Taryn, are your stories more random, or are they, sequential?
I'm much more aware I'm dreaming, and they're much more lucid. I can sort of control them, but now, that's like 2 or 3 months ago, they were very lucid. Now I'm having problems distinguishing that I'm in a dream. They're so real. They feel more real than this reality. And when I come back, it's like my brain and body don't match up. It's so powerful. It takes a while to tune back in. It's very disrupting, honestly. When you wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm still here.
Are they adventure dreams or scary dreams or what?
Most of the time, they're adventure. They're just something I'm figuring out problems, or something's going on that just lots of weird things. You know, like one time I was like treasure hunting in a underground cavern, and it flooded or something weird or something. You know, like just like adventure dreams. They're not some sort of prophetic dreams right now. But I'm just surprised at the strength of them. They're really different for me. But I want to jump over to Lindsay because I'm curious to see what you say. The floor is yours for a minute.
What's the question again?
Dreams change. Have your dreams changed since this happened? A lot of people are mentioning comments that they're dreaming. That's changed. And then some people are saying they're really freaked out because they stopped dreaming. So the point is it changed. It went one way or the other. I'm like disconnected from my body. It went nuts. So
I stopped having dreams a couple of years ago, probably around the time I gave birth. And it was, that's why I'm starting to realize that this Mandela effect is probably more than what we think it is, because I think that the phenomenon and the changes that are happening to us that cause our awareness and awakening towards it probably have even been going on before we were aware. And I just, all of a sudden I stopped dreaming, but not 100%. I would still have, I still find that when I do have dreams, there's really distinct messages. And that there is a really, like, it's almost like a clear message. And aside from having dreams with these clear, very lucid, very in my face messages, I find sleep paralysis has been more frequent. But when it occurs, it's not scary. It's nothing that I'm afraid of. It literally is that I'm in a half wake, half sleep state. And there's to put it shortly, I guess, there's others in my environment. There's somebody there. There's something there.
This is happening a lot. I'm hearing people talk about that they get sleep paralysis and something's there. It's almost like alien abduction sort of stuff where they can't move. And has that happened? Is that lining up with these changes, or has that been going on a while?
It feels that way. It's earlier. No, it wasn't today. It was the day yesterday, and I think I was talking to some other people in the Discord chat, and I was asking the question: has anyone else, this was yesterday, has anyone else been feeling like extraordinarily tired today and having like this, like kind of the sensation of real, like wanting to rest, needing that kind of needing that kind of self-care. And most of the people in the chat were saying, yeah, I've been really tired today. It's been unusual. And I noticed that happened to me yesterday. I literally sat down, I ate some lunch, I had a day home, I was able to just sit down and relax, and I sat down and I ate some lunch, and all of a sudden I just fell asleep. And when I was in that sleep state, I was in a place that felt completely dark and black. Now, I did not feel fearful, I did not feel afraid, but it was completely dark and black, and I could feel myself moving through passageways or rooms. And in each of these rooms, it was almost like my awareness was being taken into a different depth of reality consciousness. That's the only way I can describe it. The closest I could come to describing what those rooms were like, or what those layers felt like, was, if anyone knows about the 7 subtle bodies of the auric field and the energy system, those all have very different characteristics, and they all signify different levels of our consciousness. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was moving through different layers of the consciousness, the multi-dimensional consciousness.
Okay, I gotta wrap you up.
And real quick.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was that yesterday when you felt tired?
Yeah.
I never nap, never. And I was going to go to the gym, and yesterday afternoon, I just got in my chair, I couldn't move, and I went into a deep sleep yesterday, and I never nap. And I work from home, so I don't get up early. I sleep 8.5 hours a day. I was just exhausted yesterday. That's my.
I'm a mom. I never sleep.
It seems, Matt, what some people are saying in some of the shared experiences we have, I'll be in the chat room with some people and I'll be like, did you guys just feel that gravity wave? And some people will feel the same kind of weird warping of reality for a second, a few minutes later. It's weird. You can, so I wouldn't doubt that if you guys are going to sort of on the same frequency, that it would affect your sleep patterns the same ways. I got to move it over to Moneybags and Moneybags Jr. Why don't you both go ahead and take, poor Moneybags Jr. hasn't talked at all. Let's let you talk for a minute about, has your dreams changed? Take it.
So basically, my dreams have always been, I can remember some of them and I can remember others, and they've always been very complicated. Things happen and then something random could happen the next time. But something that's been occurring a lot more for me lately is like before I go to bed, as I'm drifting off to sleep or as I'm waking up, I have this feeling. It's like a feeling from the dream that keeps occurring every so often. And it's like that the dream is its own separate reality.
Wow.
So that's what I've been experiencing.
And Gabrielle, where are you on this?
For me, there's really no.
Oh, sorry. I'm
There's
sorry.
really no
Moneybags.
change.
Yeah, keep going.
No, it's okay. Evan, no problem. Evan or Moneybag. For me, there's really no change in my dreaming. Twice, 3 times a week, I remember my dream for an hour after waking up, and it really hasn't changed much. I did lucid dreaming when I was a kid. I used to know I was dreaming, fly around, just do whatever, and that ended when I was, I don't know, I say 13, maybe around the age of my son. That ended, and I haven't been able to control my dreams since. But no,
some people,
no major change for me.
Moneybags, me and you were kind of the same age, and some people feel like we had one jump of realities in the 90s, and then again in 2000, like we jumped a few times. Maybe that has to do something with it, that you were a lucid dreamer in one reality and we jumped to another. I don't know.
Possible, yeah. I don't know.
And Gabrielle, what was your opinion on this?
Yeah. Okay, so I've talked about my dreams and my lucid dreaming, out of body experiences, and dream paralysis in prior roundtables. So I just had my sleep study because I was thinking I was nuts. But everything was okay. My thing is, my prophetic dreams have been more. The lucid dreams continue to increase. Out of body experiences still increasing. I'm having in my natural happening. So you mentioned having a hard time, doctor, like if you're sleeping or you're awake, and I call it wake dreaming, because it's almost like I can't separate my two realities for split seconds sometimes, and sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes it's waking, it's random. And so now I'm going for another test because they're saying, okay, maybe it's secondary narcolepsy. But I've never had any of this before. And because of the rise of all the other abnormalities, or not paranormal or high strangeness events in the sleep world, and this is just another layer. So for me, now I'm doing the wake dreaming, where I'm walking in world more than ever. It's almost like a hallucination, like you're what you're seeing is a hallucination, but you're awake. But it's not hallucination. You're in a dream world.
Are you seeing the same reality in a slightly out of time phase, or are you seeing like yourself in another place in the city?
Both, because I experience out of body experiences. So when I'm having those, I will have what you just mentioned. And then there are other times that I have it where I'm in a different realm and I'm aware of it, and that's the lucid dreaming aspect, but with it vamped up.
Can you adjust your focus or attention so that you can choose to be in one a little more than the other, or like
Sometimes,
background
yes.
music?
Like 20 seconds. I was in a rocking chair. I saw a blue rug, shag rug, like from the 70s, and it started moving. And I go, "Oh, this is water. I'm lucid dreaming." And I was starting to like kick my feet from this rocker I was in the water because I knew I was lucid dreaming. So something like that. Is that what you're talking about? Like I
Yeah.
can control. Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I'm
I've had that. Yeah.
I'm suspecting that you might be experiencing what we all may eventually come to, because think about two realities that are existing and blending together, and your brain is able to tune into both frequencies at the same time and choose and manage those realities. That may be ultimately the consequence of multiple realities. If we can then manage that
It's
and
hard
choose.
to live this way.
Well,
Not bad.
I want to take over for a sec, and I'm going to throw this out to the panel, and I'm going to actually step back for a minute and say, what do you guys think dreams are? Because there's a lot of debate. Are dreams like where we're actually going to look at ourselves in other realities? Like if you believe in the multi-universe or multi-reality, are we actually leaving this for a little while and surfing around and looking at our other lives? Are we actually experiencing or creating a reality that just lasts for a few hours and collapses? Is it have nothing to do with that? Is it just some sort of weird chemical? Is it your brain working out problems so your life, you don't go crazy? I'm going to just throw it out there, and we're going to, what I ask you to do, so I'm going to let you free talk, but don't monopolize it. Take 1 or 2 minutes and step back. So go ahead, whoever wants to take this.
Could I go first? Because my phone's dying.
Do it.
Well, actually, can I ask you a question?
Me first. Nah.
The one who says whose name is Ask.
Oh, Gabrielle.
Oh, that's Gabrielle.
Gabrielle or Gabby?
Hey, Gabrielle. I think I've seen your chat. Anyways, what I was going to ask you was, leading up to the time when you were able to enact this lucid dreaming state, was there anything different that you were doing in terms of your dream practice? Like, was there a way of recording it?
It's random. Absolutely random. My food didn't change. My I have supplements, my meditation, nothing. No, it's just coming naturally. I don't really have control over it, which is kind of what, like I said, I had to go get tested to make sure I wasn't going nuts because I didn't have control over it. And I've had second sight all my life.
He's got trust. I think that's usually because I remember I had achieved lucid dreaming when I was still dreaming by, and I guess this would be a tip to anybody who's watching, the act of writing down as many intricate details of a dream as you can possibly remember.
Right. So you become aware.
As soon as you wake up, as soon as you have any kind of consciousness, and don't even write it in story form, point form, draw pictures, write points, whatever it takes to actually express every little intricate detail. For some reason, this draws the neural connection, whether somebody else has a better explanation for this than me, but that draws that neural connection where there's a satisfaction by that subconscious that, like you've recorded this. Like it's the same for writing in a journal. Why it's so cathartic. Somehow when we express into this physical reality, like I think Ouroboros was the one who said it in one of the live feeds about thought becoming almost like matter. It becomes matter.
Yes, we bring it into our reality, and
bring it into our reality by merely expressing it, whether it's through words, because literally talking out loud can be just the same as writing in a journal.
Absolutely.
But either way of expressing oneself creates that matter in this realm. So what is a dream? This kind of reminded me of the period where there was conversation. I went to a talk that Graham Hancock had done in Toronto a couple months ago, and this was one of the subjects that came up when he was talking about civilizations and kind of the use of ethnogenic medicines. And he was pointing at that these ethnogenic medicines, hallucinogenic, psychedelics, whatever you want to call them, tapped into a awareness that otherwise, it's DMT. It's naturally what occurs within our brains. But the question that came up at the end was, is it opening a doorway to what is outside, or is it tapping
going
into
inward?
the archive that is already written within.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the one comment that was made that resonated really, really strongly with me, because that's what I take truth to be, what resonates, was that it is actually both simultaneously. It is simultaneously all that exists externally as all of that which exists, like that is ancient, like written and imprinted. And just to kind of speak to, like, I guess how it can be expressed, what we are in this dimension, what we are in this reality. We are a part of a living organism that has a life cycle like any other living organism that we are. Every germ, every animal, every plant, every star, everything has a life cycle. And even though this is a hologram, and we all know that there's truth to that, this hologram moves and has the creation of this hologram exists as something that functions just like any organism. So therefore,
it's
the
an
Earth
organic matrix.
is an organic matrix. It's an organic matrix. So really, I don't care if it's an alien or if it's a human that's doing all the nefarious, trying to control the world type of stuff. You still exist as part of this too.
That's right.
And you can't really take control of something that is that infinite.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. You can try, you can have influence, and you can affect. I believe that strongly, because all of us have imagination. There's such great power to imagination. Technology only exists because imagination is one of our core technologies.
Guys, if I drop, I didn't disappear. I have 1% on my phone.
But yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you on that, though. I think dreaming is a lot of layers, many layers that we are yet to discover. It's all of the above.
Yeah, I believe, science explains dreaming as a way to process the things you went through during the day.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I have always thought, even with my science background, I have always thought that dreaming was a lot more than that. I just never have been able to figure out what that more is. So I think there's a whole other dimension to dreaming we have to discover yet.
It's where we become free and we are out of this restrictive body. It's when we become free.
Yeah.
And we rejuvenate. I think it's very important that we dream or sleep. Some people don't remember their dream. It's our freedom.
Yeah.
It's our freedom.
I want to make sure everybody gets a word in here. Some of you guys have been kind of quiet.
I'm going to sign off. So
okay.
Good night, everybody. My phone's dying.
Thank you for joining us.
Best wishes.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye,
That means,
guys. Good luck.
ladies and gentlemen, we have a spot opening up in chat. There were some people saying, when can I jump in? Look for my email in the chat if you really want to get in. But I know Evan and Evan Jr. haven't had a chance to really say much, or Sam. Go ahead, jump in and tell me what you're thinking on dreams.
Actually, I wanted to bring up something that I've been thinking about for a little while, and I wanted to ask all you guys a question. If do you believe that deja vu is linked to dreams, or could be?
I believe it could be either way. It could be linked to dreams. It could be linked to alternate realities. It could be either way. It's just how you look at it. That's my belief. Or it could be even linked to previous lives and stuff.
I have had experiences where I've had fragmented dreams. I can remember the images, but they seemed just things out of any kind of storyline. And then weeks or months later, I would turn a certain way or be talking to someone, and the light and the way it occurs, suddenly I'm realizing I'm having a deja vu moment. And so I'm thinking that in some sense, at some points, we are getting kind of like a download. Either it's from another dimension or it's from a coordination signal information that we get on a spiritual level, or a time of dimensional time shifts are, the dimensions aren't necessarily completely time synchronized. So matter of fact, the physicists say this, that on nanoseconds, or millionths of a second, that's part of what distinguishes the realities, is that there's a time delay or a time differentiation between the realities. But there may also be larger periods of time between the various dimensions. So if our counterpart, or if our spiritual above dimension is trying to prepare us, warn us, or have us walk a certain way, or if enemies are trying to do something in regard to management of our spirits, then there's a certain sort of peak behind that, or a connection with that we sometimes receive. And I notice I always have a higher frequency of deja vus after I've heard a brief ringing in my ear. I'll have periodic ringing in my ears at a certain frequency for 20, 30 seconds. It'll stop, and then within a week or so I'll have a deja vu moment. That kind of makes me feel like I'm on the track I'm supposed to be on, you know, in harmony with where I'm supposed to be at this point in life. I'm not sure why I sense that. It's just more of an intuition. Anyone else have anything like that?
I'm just going to say, because I've been pretty quiet, I'm going to back out so other people can come into the chat.
Say your piece on dreams. I mean, you waited this long. Do it.
Well, as you guys probably know, I don't know whether everybody knows, but I've had stuff all sleep in the last couple of weeks, and my dreams have sometimes been very lucid, in and out of consciousness, that is. And yeah, they do exist to tell you something, I guess, and it is, I suppose, your subconscious speaking to your higher self, maybe, or something like that, you know. But yeah, it's hard to explain in words, so I'll leave it at that.
Are you sleeping in bed talking to us right now? Because now all of a sudden your shirt's gone. What happened here? Talking to us out of the bedroom. All right.
I'm outside, actually.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I guess Australia's probably pretty hot right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's 28.
I guess I'm going to throw my 2 cents in here. I feel that we're in this reality mainly to collect experiences. That's the whole point of this thing, to collect interactions, collect experiences. And it seems silly that we would come into this reality and turn off 1/3 of the time here and collect no experiences. So I think our brains are creating other realities to test out while we're disattached from our body, to gain more experiences during the recharge phase of this physical body. The whole point is to collect as many experiences as we can. So I think that dreams are real somewhere in some reality, and then they collapse when they're done, or maybe you're even invading or watching yourself in other realities and taking that experience. That's kind of my thing. I don't know. It's the best I can come up with.
Oh yeah, that last part you said about invading other realities of yourself, I never really thought of it that way, but now that I do think of it, that would be a worthy claim.
Well, yeah, think about it, Evan Jr. If we have multiple universes and multiple realities, that means there's all kinds of crazy realities out there where you're really doing these things. And is it possible that you can surf over to one and watch it and experience it through there? Or are you actually creating these realities for a short time and coming back? I don't know.
Yeah, I want to just point out one thing. I can't believe that as we go through life now, I say to my son, there's a reality where there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex running down the street right now. Yeah. Just all this crazy stuff, where I never talked that way with my father. But we're talking multiple realities and stuff. It's crazy.
I want to point this out because this is how crazy stuff has become with the Mandela Effect and how normal this has become. We've gotten through the shock phase, me and Kate, and we've talked about it. And now I'm in this community, knee deep, and we talk about it every day. So when someone says, oh, well, there's 2 suns or there's something going on, I kind of just keep an open mind. I don't necessarily say it's not my reality. But then the other day we're driving to Walmart and we are going, and the sun is kind of low in the sky and it's shooting sun rays out like almost horizontal, like vertically. horizontal, vertically, and everything in between, to where it's maybe like an 80-degree spread. Where I remember sunlight being at like a 30-degree spread. It wasn't completely sideways where it was shooting out. And I was like, look how weird that sun looks. It's like, how is it shooting these rays sideways? It has to be really low or something. And it just looked really weird. So we pull up in the parking lot, we get out and we look at the sun. And I was like, I'm just going to stare at the sun and see what the heck's going on. So I actually look at the sun and I'm looking at it, and Kate and me are staring at each other. And I say, do you see that? And she says, yeah, I see that. And I say, you see two suns right now? She says, yeah, I see two suns right now. And for about 15 seconds, we saw two suns. And how unbelievably weird and shocking would that be to someone's reality if I hadn't prepped through all this? Because it's weird. I mean, we saw two suns, and I would have thought I was crazy if I was the only person seeing it, but we were both looking at it. And it was like kind of like one was displaced on the other, almost like if you saw two realities that were a little askew. One of the suns was hidden in the other's corona and rays. It was just a little off. So you had to kind of, if you weren't really looking, it would just be like blinding sunlight. If you didn't look directly at the sun, you wouldn't see it. And I look at it and I see two suns, and it lasts for about 15 seconds. I take my eyes off. We start talking about this. I look back up, and the sun moved to like a foot. It moved over the sky really fast. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So we talk about this for a sec, and then we just go into Walmart and shop and get our groceries. Like, okay, Mandela Effect, let's just write it up. Like it's something normal now in my life. And how you're saying you can have a conversation about a T-Rex running down the road to your son, and that's completely normal now in your life. Have we gotten to this point where we've accepted that reality is just this weird thing now that
why not?
That would be traumatizing to think if you saw two suns, 6 months ago. But now it's like, there it is. Look, yeah, pretty interesting. Let's go get some groceries. Like.
Well, the one problem I do face is when I ask him to do something. Now he comes back with, well, that was in another reality.
Oh my God.
So, we are having that issue as well.
Well, no, there was this one thing that happened a little while ago where I said something like my sister asked me something, and then I said yes, and then I asked her why she asked me, and then my dad was sitting over on the couch, and he said, why did you answer her with a question? And I said, I didn't answer her with a question. I said I asked the question after I said yes, but he never heard yes, and she never heard yes. So I'm thinking like maybe they saw it from another reality, and I was in my own reality.
I think that stuff happens all the time.
Or you just might not have heard it. I might have spoke softly. So who knows?
I think that's one of the slippery slopes that we walk on as well when we're drawing our consciousness in this direction, and we start to put our focus towards all of this intellectual matter is we start to experience greater increase in how we switch timelines or realities, or how our perception is kind of moving and merging with our consciousness. Like literally we're opening up our consciousness to things that maybe we didn't think were tangible before. Maybe that really is, like, that's what I meant when I said like the imagination is a powerful piece of what and who we are, because that actually what forms the reality in our consciousness is what we can imagine, what we can create in that I don't even want to say mind space, because it's more than a mind space. Imagination is actually something that where it's like the culmination of what is occurring from the mind and what is occurring from the emotions, because we create from those places. We create from that like energy, we're talking about frequency. We're creating from the energy that we are resonating out of us. Inspiration seems to carry the most weight when it comes to resonance. When we feel inspired, we create inspiration.
Can I ask for some clarity?
Yeah, do it.
We're throwing this word consciousness around heavily. What exactly are we saying consciousness is?
Focus, awareness.
I mean, I have my ideal of it. I was wondering what everyone else's ideal of it was.
Okay, let me chime in here. Getting back, I can relate this to potentially what my definition of a dream is. and vegan. I'll try to tie that in. I start with, well, what do we know? I know that when I was at Penn State and I'd stayed up for 30 hours studying for a final, and I needed a 10-minute cat nap to revitalize me, I know I started dreaming within 1 second after putting my head down. So I absolutely believe dreams are to rejuvenate, revitalize, whatever, the old tradition of what dreams might be. But I believe that the subconscious, the unconscious, and the frontal lobes are basically almost two separate entities. You could almost say there's two separate things living inside your mind. And I believe my dreams are nonsense. When some people say, well, that's me in another reality, I don't see that what I do in a dream, I don't think could happen in any reality. It's complete nonsense, other than when I'm worrying about, studying for a test. It's just utter nonsense. So this is a weird theory, but I've always speculated that when we sleep, deep REM sleep is when the two entities in our mind actually connect together, or the subconscious or the unconscious actually invades or goes into the frontal lobes or the conscious mind and dream. The unconscious is in control. It throws utter nonsense at our frontal lobe, almost to distract us. In other words, it's a weird theory, I know. But in terms of what conscious is, I've always thought. Recently, I've got the notion that we are inhabiting this body, but everything we know of as I, is not just inside the skull. There is something else afar, in a different dimension, in heaven. It doesn't matter what your definition is. Conscious to me is that source of energy and knowledge that actually, I don't know, that actually connects into your unconscious or subconscious, if that made any sense.
I got it.
Mhm.
I've kind of, it's such a handful of fog when you try to pin down a definition for consciousness, but it is, in one sense, an awareness that you exist and that there are interactions going on with that existence from other beings or consciousnesses that exist. And it's like when you wake up, you get this question, how is it possible that I have this sense of self-identity? I mean, it's a bizarre, quality of material reality that we're in, that happens. So it's a mystery.
Okay, so I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Moneybags?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah,
I just
go
had
ahead.
a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness to me is what we are. It's who we are. What we are really is consciousness. Because I had two dreams when I was a kid, back when I used to do the lucid dreaming, and I dreamed that I died. Now, a lot of people, they say you don't usually dream you die. I dreamt I died twice. Once on the beach, big whale came out of the ocean and landed on me, and I died. But I was conscious. I mean, I was in a black space, and I was conscious, and then I knew I was separate. And the same in the burning house. The boards fell on me, and I was done. I knew that I was done, but I stayed conscious, and that's just how I define it. I just, it's who I am. My consciousness isn't going to go away, in my opinion, when we die. I don't think, that's just my opinion.
Well, I asked that question because when I look at consciousness, I look at it from two states of being, the unconscious and the conscious. And I think consciousness has absolutely nothing to do with the mind. It's completely, when we talk about higher intelligence, we're talking about our consciousness. And it's not something that we can throw around because it is us. I think our mind is a tool that we use to maneuver in this world. But the mind is constantly creating and taking things apart. As exclusively focused on the past and a predictive future. Absolutely absent from presence. And I think true presence comes from comes from consciousness. So if I was going to apply this to the conversation, everything that we think something is, we're literally doing that from an unconscious state, because we're manifesting and thinking of something that isn't necessarily tangible to identify. So we're making a projection of what something is. I think consciousness is a knowing, and I'll give you the supporters of that consciousness. It's called the five senses. The five senses exist exclusively so we can have some form of connection to things outside of ourselves, which in this case would be outside of our bodies. And that would be sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. But my problem that I have with a lot of these discussions, it's almost like we take those five senses and we throw them completely out of the window, as if they don't matter.
Well, I don't think about that.
But those five senses is what grounds us to reality. Because when we're not connected with our five senses, we're in our head. And when we're in our head, we are manufacturing something and creating things as if it's real, when really we have no tangibility to show that it's real.
Vegan, real quick. You're smart guy. I've loved a lot of things you've said tonight, but I would just totally disagree with that. I think five senses are actually my liars. I mean, what color is an apple? It's red. No, it's not. Red is the only color an apple is not. Red is the color that an apple rejects. I think the five senses are lying to me, and actually can lead us astray. So I tend to disagree.
Well, hang on though.
Hang on for 1 second.
There's a good point. There's a good point though.
Let me answer that for 1 second.
Yep.
Your senses do not tell you the color is red. The color red is a symbol that we have attached to that. Your senses see something, and we have created a symbol to say that's red, and we all agree that this shade of color is the color red. Your senses don't say it's red.
Consensus reality.
Right. So when I say five senses, we got to call it what it is: sight, hearing, taste, touch. It has nothing to do with
those things
symbolism.
even exist.
Well,
they do exist.
They do exist.
I mean,
color doesn't exist.
Intellectuals and scholars.
There's just waves in the air. That's it.
This is. I mean, I don't want to pivot away with discrediting nuance here. But when you say consciousness or conscious and unconscious, unconscious implies you're not awake. So maybe you mean subconscious.
No, I mean exactly what I said.
I mean, you're not conscious, as in you're not awake at all. You can't co-create reality when you're unconscious. And I'm not from your point to take away from it, to detract. But on top of that, scholars in philosophy have already had this conversation. The phenomenologists have pinned down that you can never know the thing in itself, and we intellectualize everything and we label it to reorganize the periodic table of experience.
I disagree.
As it streams through our five senses. But I will say that the guy from Texas, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name actually.
Matt.
I will say you have a point, but there's something that I would like to bring to your attention that may discredit your point. When I work with plants, my five senses, and you could argue that we've genetically evolved with them to develop this type of capability to see what their temperament is truly like. But when I work with plants, my friend, I can see when they're low on nitrogen. I can see when they give me physical characteristics through their consciousness that then I interpret through my five senses and intellectualize, and I can help them and guide them to get the best yield. And of course, art and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I also know that plant will die if I don't interface with them, with my consciousness. So five senses.
You love them.
You have to see it first. You have to use your senses to get to any point that you're referencing.
But your brain is intellectualizing your senses. Everything's just stimuli.
Your brain can accomplish these functions without the five senses. Is that what you're saying?
You know, if you, when I hear Matt talking about the senses and they say all our senses are lying to me, so everything we see and hear and perceive is a lie. What are we doing here talking about ME? It's a lie anyway. I mean,
Good point.
That's your interpretation of the language. The senses, like the environment that we have that is made of senses, like the the bodily senses, feeling, emotion, any of this, it's all the language between that consciousness self, the soul, and this realm and this physicalness, because this is how we're interpreting the information and the stimuli.
Right.
This is our interpretation. This is how, these are our tools. These are all of
our tools, and the mind is nothing but a tool. We believe, too many of us believe the mind is us. So whatever pops up in my head, that's me. That's not true, guys. And that's why we are in so much trouble. We are in so much trouble because every bad thing that has ever happened has come directly out of the mind. Think about it. Think about
We're
all
not
the
in
evil.
trouble.
Yeah, but every good thing that has happened also came out of the mind. So you're dealing with paradox here, Vegan.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not
really,
yes, you are.
anything. Don't put
really
words in
throws
my mouth.
a monkey wrench into this, Vegan.
No,
I love it. I love it how you guys attack each other. Sort of not attack, but disagree with each other. You and Vegan and Ouroboros always have disagreements.
Well, that's fine. I mean, disagreement is
so how does astral projection fit in with this, Vegan? I mean, there are people who have proven or have demonstrated some very unusual stuff, the reality of the spirit.
You're still interpreting through the mind. You're still interpreting the astral projection through the mind. You're still seeing through a 3D lens, because otherwise, if you're not looking through a 3D lens, this is what I was saying before. How do you describe 12th dimensional reality?
Right.
Can anyone tell me that? Nobody can tell me that, because you can't actually express from that level of consciousness into this realm something that can be comprehended by the mind. We're all working with the mind, but yet we're drawing something else through that is interpreted and expressed.
And I'm not trying to take away.
I'm
not trying to take away from of mind activity and creation and the things there, but I don't want to confuse what we know to be true. Everything that we know to be true is used or is done through our 5 senses.
Well, can I ask you this, Vegan?
How
Are you
else
trying to differentiate?
Yes, I'm trying to put them in its proper category.
Yeah, with the primordial source energy that actually ignites all conscious activity, and then differentiate that from what we intellectualize through labels and division, which I agree with you, the universe as a whole, as a singularity, is one unified field of experience called the now. But I also think that we can make meaningful connections. I mean, that's the whole reason we're even having a discussion. So we can't go too far on the side of differentiation to the point that we're discrediting the other end of the spectrum. Yes, primordial source and consciousness that creates everything that we see as consciousness is through essence, the emanation that gives life to all things. But I will say that some of the intellectual capacities humans have and have developed are not necessarily always ugly. And that's what I want to tell you. So you can't always discredit the intellectualized facts that we establish. They can be used for bad things, but that's because we choose through will to make these things. We get
into trouble when we think that these intellectual things are real when they're not. Reality starts with the 5 senses. It does not start with your thought of it. Just because we think something is true does not make it true. How do we determine truth? We use our tools.
I think it's a loop, though.
Our 5 senses to tangibly show that the thing itself is real. So all I'm saying is when we talk speculatively, we should identify that we're talking in a unreal manner, because technically it's not real.
This is kind of an old philosophical argument through the ages. And the question goes like this: is the concept of a table the true table, or is the physical expression of the table the true table? Because only the concept of it is actually perfect. The material reality is always flawed.
Everybody's perception is their reality. That's the difference between people's realities. It's their perception on things, and that's the problem in the chaos in the world in itself.
It's the
Right.
perception,
As long as we all have the senses to touch,
which is the
we can
real
determine that that's a table.
Right. That's how we verify the material table.
But you can never know the table because it's still a human interaction you're talking about. Like you'll never know the table.
Now you're back in the mind. You're back into the mind.
No,
I'm
telling you,
you're in the spiritual realm, Biggin. Maybe you're in the spiritual realm, and that's just verification of the spiritual realm's expression. The spiritual realm being the only true reality.
You know how you used maybe? You could be 100% right, but it's not a knowing. It's not a knowing. If I physically see a table and I can physically touch a table, guess what? It's a table.
No
matter how much we try to say it's not, razor, it's a table. That's basically.
Yeah, but you say what color the table is.
Well, we all have to.
But it's still through the human bias.
In the material sense,
people have color blindness.
Definitely.
If you define real,
I'm just saying.
Table that's a certain color.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, Vegan? Is the table resonating at a frequency or not?
If it was, I would not be able to know. I could speculate.
Okay.
And anyone that
Everything's
says,
resonating.
and if anyone who says they do know, guess what? They're speculating because you cannot tangibly show resonance. Can you?
Okay.
Well, I would like to bring up one more point to Vegan.
Can anybody on this panel express and show resonance?
I want to show resonance. Yes, I can show you resonance.
You can use equipment
Show resonance.
Scream
Roll out and watch the wine glass break.
This is resonance.
Like that, yeah, this is resonance. And what is knowing? See, that's another question, because our perspective of what knowingness is can be wildly different. And I kind of almost feel like every person I'm seeing like speak here is coming from their subjective reality, their subjective perspective on what knowing is and what knowingness means. Because I mean, to me, I've got my own personal sense of knowingness, and it's deeply in something that is innate to my consciousness.
Right. It's like parallel perceptions discussing nuance.
We have a knowing that is within, but everything outside of ourselves is based on our senses.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is. That's
wait just a second.
Not necessarily vegan. What about intuition and
that's
of the mind?
It's another sense.
It's of the mind.
Is it?
It's more than 5. It's more than 5 senses.
It may be a perception of frequency or wave communication, but it is not perceived through conventional senses. That's what I'm putting forward.
So now we're back inside our heads.
Well, our heads do a lot of great things, and let me just bring up an example. So through the 5 senses, right?
I'm just calling a spade a spade.
But no, here's what you're not getting, Vegan. We're interfacing. There's a loop.
Yeah, go ahead.
You keep dividing and trying to make things separate, but this is all.
It is.
No, it isn't. Everything's connected and flowing. And I can give you an example.
Stuff and physical stuff are 2 different things.
No. I'll show you how it's a loop.
Okay.
The stimuli comes through your 5 senses, right? Mm-hmm. What happens to that? It goes up to your brain. Your intellect, your human bias, reads it in a cognitive pattern because we're a pattern-seeking creatures.
That is a theory.
And then no, this isn't theory, Vegan. Now I'm going to follow through with this example. What do I do when I get the stimuli, right? The periodic table, hang on. The periodic table flows through my senses. My intellect rearranges it. And what do? I create a computer with my 5 senses. You see how it's a loop?
Great theory.
No, it's not a theory. This is a loop of feedback. We are
If it's not a theory, what
interconnected
is it?
and we are
It's an
interfacing.
experience. It's a description
No,
of
it's theory, what
experience.
is it?
It's an experience, of course, and the
It's a
now is
description
the
of that
simultaneous
experience process.
singularity of all matter and consciousness in
It-
one
it-
ball.
Okay,
And-
I'm taking my show back for a
Joel.
sec. Hold on.
And
Everyone
well
take a
said.
Can any of
breath.
this be tested? It can't be
Take a
tested.
breath. Take
No,
a
it's a
breath.
loop. It's a loop, my
Breathe.
friend.
I'm
It's the
stepping in.
Ouroboros
It's an
principle.
ideal.
Hey, don't
It's
make me
an
mute
ideal.
everybody. What's up? Take a breath. Step
I will
back for a
silence
second.
myself.
Go for like 20 minutes. I'm stepping in for a minute. All right.
Get
That
around.
was fun.
That was fun, and I appreciate. This is a good sign that, you know, even though we disagree, that like any other talk show, the people would have been yelling at each other and saying bad things, and we're like giggling the whole time we're disagreeing. So this is good. It gives me hope for humanity. I will say this is an interesting topic because you do have to think, you know, what's real in a sense. As if I ask the audience, close your eyes and picture a black cat. How are we even able to do that? No senses are there, but I can see a black cat in my mind. So how do you do that without senses? There's something else going on, a feed from the soul that allows you to be able to do that. That is completely, you know, you can take all their senses away, and they will still have some sort of experience.
Well, yeah.
And
Here's the weird thing. This is the weird thing, Taryn. Technically, we can't see a black cat because it's black. Sorry, I'm not being. Like,
Well, you're really kind of splitting hairs on the whole topic.
No,
See a
Doc,
white
you're
cat.
wrong.
Yeah, see a white cat then.
What I'm
The
trying to
only
say,
reason you
you
see
can
a
go ahead,
black
talk to
cat
me.
is because- The only reason you see a black cat is because you have experience already knowing a black cat.
So
if you've never seen a black cat, you close your eyes, you will not see a black cat.
If
A
I,
blind from birth
if
person
I
would
close my
agree with
eyes
you,
and
Taryn.
imagine something that
I
I've
mean,
never experienced in my
Megan.
life, where would that information come from?
Well, that's my point.
Genetic compilation of your ancestors' experience.
That's what-
'Cause everything's interconnected and we're
Is it a higher source
interfaced.
I'm tapping into? You know, am I a higher soul that can see stuff that this is like, you know, is it this? This is what am I trying to say? This machine, this lump of flesh is just a way to experience it.
So okay, I ask you this: have you guys seen an ultraviolet cat or an infrared cat before?
No, that's a curious question.
No, but that would be awesome. I would love an ultraviolet cat.
I wanted to say something too.
Yeah.
I dabbled in reincarnation and karma. It was years back, so I don't remember everything anymore. But they had this theory, and I stress theory for vegan's sake. They had this theory that we actually exist of 7 levels. We had the physical level, you had the aura, and you had a lot of levels in between. I don't remember all of them anymore. But there was one at the top, which was a higher being, which was still yourself, but which was a higher being. And if we could be able to tap into that higher being consciously, we might, you know, see things we haven't experienced in this reality. But as I say, it's all kind of theory.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's DMT people who experience or gone on those ayahuasca experiences. Really have interesting tales to tell along those lines. Yeah, spirit stuff, and maybe there's some correlations.
Spirit, mind.
No,
Well,
if that theory of spirit inhabiting flesh needs a reference to learn meaning, value through an association to the material world, and then carries that beyond this world in the spirit, pure energy form being, like so many have proposed this evening, then what Taryn is describing and what Joel is describing would be, you know, work hand in glove operations in the Ouroboros principle, as he Joel.
I disagree. The spirit.
I know you do.
Vegan, you were talking about the true nature, though, Vegan. Isn't that the true nature? The ayahuasca contains the information of the true nature?
Or
Don't
just
confuse
I'm just
the
using your
body.
words.
Don't confuse the body and the mind for the conscious ever. The conscious is our true self. The body and the mind die. They die. They decay.
Of course.
Over time.
But the true self knows that everything is connected and nothing is separate.
You serve on this planet for a short period of time. And our bodies and our minds are tools that the conscious use to function externally,
Absolutely.
right?
So,
and I'm saying the recordings that it makes through that body stay with the
Yes.
soul and with the spirit being and are carried
The
with
soul
it.
doesn't have a brain.
Yeah, it does.
So all the past and the future is stuff, mind stuff, guys.
That's the only reason that's the only reason we came here. We wanted to expand, and how we expand is we increase the frequency of the record. Like we basically have a record. We are creating a record of experiences. We came here to have experiences and to build upon experiences and to actually master our experience, our ability to have experience.
To spiritually mature.
I think there's an interesting thing
That
about
is speculation at best.
I think it's an interesting thing that DNA.
This is all ancient knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still speculation. Now,
let me jump in though.
We don't know that. How could you possibly know any of that?
I think there's some to be said that there's information that is stored in at least the body. I mean, DNA stores a frequency, and you can put some DNA, and it does have an electrical frequency coming out of it. It can receive and transmit like a little antenna, and DNA is incredibly complicated. But you can cut up that piece of DNA and stick it in some water, and it'll do nothing. And you can try to get all that stuff to reconnect with enzymes and try to put it back together, and it really just won't go back together. But if you take another piece of good, healthy DNA and put it next to it, they don't even have to be like in different water vials. That signal will come from one DNA to the other, and the other one will reassemble back into a piece of DNA. It's crazy. So the DNA is an information record in a sense that it has a frequency that can trigger life to start cloning itself again. I think that when you're saying that, with all these collective experiences that they store in this body, I think every single experience is, even down probably way past DNA, is stored in your body.
Take a look for a dense representation.
What'd you say?
Just take a look in the mirror for a dense representation of the artwork that your ancestors compiled through time and space. Mm-hmm. Vegan. Yep. I mean, this is what I am, is all of my ancestry and the human family played out. And this right now is the pinnacle, at least to my perspective, because I don't know firsthand another dimension. So if you want the physical representation, I say, look in the mirror, friend.
I still don't see your point. What does that have to do with knowing?
Everything is information.
Let me answer.
And nothing is nothing is separate. I'm just saying nothing is separate.
Everything is connected.
Introduce levels of the concept of what is real.
Okay.
If it's happening,
guys, we're going in circles on this, so I'm going to step back in. I've let it go for like a half hour.
No, it's 5 against 1.
Oh, I'm not against you, Vegan.
I'm not against you.
I'm not against you.
I just think that your theory is a little less than comprehensive.
You won't let me explain it, so I guess you can't. I guess it's easy.
Okay, go ahead, Vegan. I'm going to give you the last word for like 3 minutes, and then we're moving on. So say your piece.
I don't even need 3 minutes. The point I'm making, guys, is we confuse our mental projection with reality. We confuse the two. We mesh. We don't separate the two, right? We are gifted with the ability to identify things outside of ourselves, and that is done through our 5 senses. Everything that we know to be true is done either through sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. If you take those 5 things away, take them away, what do we have? You have death. You do not exist without your 5 senses. That is tangible proof to show that to function in this manifested world, you must obtain your 5 senses or use your 5 senses.
You have isolation.
When you ignore,
I'm stepping in. You got wrap it up.
When you ignore your 5 senses and you place all your stock on what you think, mental projection, things that you don't even control. Half the thoughts that pop in your mind, you don't know where the hell they come from. They're random. It's mental noise. If you take all your value of what's real and say it's in my head, I think that is the cause of all the problems that we have on this planet. We ignore reality, which is presence. Consciousness is true presence. That's what consciousness. Unconsciousness is when you're in your head.
Okay, I'm jumping in.
That was a minute.
Thank you. All right, here's what we got going on. Is I'm going to move on, and we are going to continue this conversation because there's great points everywhere in this, and it is something that belongs in the Discord chat room. So for you guys that don't know, I'm going to take a little commercial break here for a sec. That we have a chat that goes on all day long in the Mandela Effect community. I wanted a good place where people could go and talk about whatever they wanted to talk about without fear of people thinking you're nuts or crazy, without trolls badgering you on like they do on Facebook. So we created, we've tried different things. We've gone to Google Hangouts for a long time. I promoted, then I tried Telegram, and the community just wasn't happy with it. So we've made one last move. We've tested this, and we're staying at Discord for a while. Discord is like a service where you can go in there and you can chat. You can also do voice. If you check my channel, I just made a story about it today. You can go look, and it'll explain how to get on there. The Discord is really nice. It's very nice, friendly place, and I hope you'll check it out after the show. It's where we're going to be moving to Afterglow from now on. So this conversation can definitely keep going on in the Afterglow. I hope it does. But I wanted to move to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was time speeding up and slowing down. And we lost some of the people. Unfortunately, I wanted to ask these questions too. I think we lost Evan. But Chris has a cool cat. Look at that. And I got distracted. Look, right here. Total distraction. Anyway, so I want to talk about time speeding up because some of the people in my in the chat room, I'm not going to say names, but I'm going to tell you the story, is that this woman drives her child to school every day and drops this kid off. And all of a sudden, they started getting there 15 minutes earlier. And so I was asking her, I was like, well, you sure just, the traffic patterns didn't change or anything like that? And no, it had nothing to do with traffic. All of a sudden, they just started getting earlier. And her daughter was the first one to really point it out. And she actually kind of got mad at her mom. And she's like, I'm too early. I'm just sitting here for, I didn't need to go to school this early. And her daughter is the one that is aware of the ME effect more than the mother, which was pretty interesting. I myself have experienced this, that I've got one of those fancy Asian rice cookers, the ones that are really expensive. My friend gave me one as a gift, and like when you get past the cheap rice cookers and you get into the ones that cost like $200 and $300, they have a way where they cook the rice 3 or 4 different sides at the same time, and they monitor the moisture and the texture, so you get like perfect rice when it comes out. It's a total no-brainer way to do it. It always takes an hour. Now it takes a little over 40 minutes. All of a sudden, my rice just started cooking in 40 minutes. And throughout what I'm hearing, it seems that time has sped up about 20%, is what people are guessing it as. And I don't know if that's just us feeling it or if everybody's feeling it, but I want to go around the room and talk about time, and I want to see in the chat room if there's some people here saying they've experienced the same thing. Marlena in the chat room is saying that's exactly what happened with me and my daughter. And yeah, man, that's pretty crazy. So let's talk about time, go around the room. First person, Raphael, you've been the quietest, so you get to speak. Go ahead.
I can't prove anything. I didn't do any empirical studies about it, but I have the feeling that I can do less and less in the same period of time like I used to be able to do. And I don't think it's age or anything. It just seems like, for instance, when I'm editing a video for my You Decide channel, I used to be able to do a lot more editing in an hour than recently. It seems to take a lot longer, and I don't think it has anything to do with the workload or anything. But as I said, it's like it's a perception. It's not a thing that I empirically studied or anything. But I feel, I can dig when people say, you know, time seems to be speeding up, because I seem to perceive it as well.
Right. Let's go down the line on Ouroboros. Do you think time's? I mean, I know you're the kind of person that's going to say what is time, and it's not real anyway. But
what is it?
I
gotta ask you, do you like sushi? We're talking about this rice.
No, you can't. There's an option on this thing. You can make sushi rice. You said it, and it cooks. This rice cooker is incredible. It has like all these different kinds of rice you can make. It's
that sticky rice, man. That's hard to come by. If you can make it in a little
that rice maker.
Well, I was trying to lose. You know, I was trying to lose some weight.
Is the rice cooker.
Like one of the best people that are in the best shape are Asians. They have a diet that pretty much is like a rice diet, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna go to the Asian store and eat what they're eating. And
no, I'm with you. Once a week, I try to get this Chinese, Japanese sushi
they still
takeout.
cook healthy. They're not all completely.
They have 2 of these though, and they're gone.
What?
But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what about time. I was recently studying about like different cultures and how time has evolved and how we perceive it. A lot of people should take into account the fact that we've went through different transitions to where we have different instruments that actually record time. We've had sand capsules, we've had water dials, we've had sundials, we've had all these different instruments of measurement. And I think the problem with the digital tyranny of today is we focus too much on the minute and the minute and the seconds, where ancient cultures, especially those of antiquity, they were not concerned with 10 minutes, half an hour. They were like, hey, man, you're going to be here when the sun is over there. And you showed up. And if you were 10, 15, 30 minutes late, it wasn't a big deal, because what they were doing was like a 4-hour event. And every show I try to make a point to compliment what you're doing here. I really appreciate that you have a large time frame to discuss this material, because if time is speeding up, Dr. Taryn, we need all the time that we can possibly have to discuss this topic. And furthermore, I like that you're always more, you're just very loose with the time constraint. You're not really concerned about it, where if we had a time constraint, and this is going to tie into the idea that time's speeding up, if we had a time constraint, we would all feel rushed to project our thoughts. I think the fact that we live in a society that calculates every minute second, it really makes us feel like time is speeding up because of the pressure. And not to go back to like Freddie Mercury, but pressure pushing down on me. Good song. The point is that's the whole deal. Like the way we record time really has an impact on our perception. So I don't know if time has sped up for me personally, but I could definitely vouch for those who feel that they're under pressure from society.
Yeah, I want to say there's really I originally started this show thinking it'd only be an hour long or maybe 2, and there's just no way, because we go so deep into stuff that even when I shut it off at 4 and 4.5, people in the comments are like, man, I know that was really long, but I wish it kept going. And it's like, holy cow, I don't know any other show that's 4 hours long, you know? So I dig it, but you're right, because I don't want people to feel rushed, and I think we would. And the way you're saying it, that society's, when you add pressure in, it always makes people rushed. My issue though is I feel like I have something very very quantifiable. I have a rice machine that is cooking faster now, and I don't know why. And it's like, what did the physics in my kitchen change? You know, what is going on? So
we can actually, like, I believe that, you know, like our ability to even interpret time has a certain level of not just interpretation, but it's almost like time can be malleable. Like if time and space are really an illusion, then they're malleable, just as much as this Mandela effect is showing us. And that, you know, like, I mean, I've had experiences where similarly, and not because I was following like, you know, a timer clock, but rather I knew that, okay, what was the instance? It's happened to me twice now, where by intention alone and literally putting so much strength into the thought of the intention, I literally made time slow down. And I was able to make it to a destination before it closed, even though it was actually completely impossible that I was going to make that trip. I can remember it because I had to rush from the hospital, pick up my daughter, and get her to this location for an appointment, make it all the way out to this bakery place because my mother wanted something, and then make it back there to pick her up in time. And I'm looking at the clock, I'm looking at the distance. I've traveled these routes my entire life. I know for certain there is no way I can do this in 45 minutes. I don't know why, but I just set the intention. I will do this, and I'm going to accomplish this. I have no idea how that was possible. I just remember arriving at my end point, looking at that clock, seeing that literally to the minute. I set that intention, I made that happen, and I'm looking at everything. I'm just like, how did I do that? I was not speeding beyond, like it wasn't like I was going 200 down the, and I'm referring to kilometers. It's not like I was going 200 down the country roads. It just, for some reason, I was able to prove to myself that time was malleable. And it's funny, just to bring up one last point, when you're talking about the constriction of the pressure of the time of this society, it kind of made me laugh to myself because we have a term that's pretty common, like amongst natives, and apparently it's common in other countries too, where I remember when I was in Hawaii, they referred to it as Hawaiian time. Around here, people refer to it as Indian time, and what you're referring to is that no matter what time it was supposed to start, you can depend on all the natives to be all late, and it's not going to start for like half an hour to 45 minutes after it was supposed to start because nobody actually got there collectively on time. None of us did, and none of us are on time for anything. Everything is late, and it's not because we're just these lazy people who can't function. It's literally because, well, it wasn't as long ago that we didn't have that pressure and constriction of the time. It wasn't that long ago that we lived by this natural rhythm that moved very organically. And so, yeah, like our natural genetic clocks just aren't set to this idea of constriction. It's, I'm late all the time. I'm
the mechanical tyranny of our tools.
I kind of want to jump in on that for a sec because I do feel
the heart.
I do feel that we can sort of control time. When I was playing rugby, I was a pretty big rugby player for 20 years. And what happened is, and a lot of athletes say this, that they can slow time down. And I would catch a ball out of the air, I would cut left, I'd break right, I'd knock a tackle down, I'd stiff arm a guy, and all that would happen in under like a half a second. You could see all this happening when you got to the point where you could slow time down on the field, and it's kind of the best way I can describe it. I think Lindsay's right, because I remember trying to make an airplane, and the guy was like, "You have 10 minutes to get to the gate. There's no way in hell you're making that." And I did make it. And I swear it's like my intention. I was like, "I'm gonna make that thing," and I made it. And that was it. It's like I do feel there's time that there's a way you can sort of control time with your mind a little bit. I don't know if I'm off base on that.
Well,
but
Dr. Taryn, don't they call it like flow for creative individuals when they hit that creative pinnacle where it's almost a stream of consciousness? They call it flow. I'm sure it's similar for professional athletes, because it seems when you are a craftsman or you have developed a skill. You reach
I think it can
that
be anything.
moment.
It's just
right.
athletes.
It's anything. It's just a
say
human
it, but I mean,
thing.
if you look at someone who plays the violin at a high level or the piano, their fingers shouldn't move that fast. It's like, whoa, how are you doing this?
Right. It's like time breaks down and they are connected to whatever they are doing, and time and space is irrelevant because whatever their intention and attention is, it's going to flow straight into that object. And I think time becomes just completely irrelevant at that point.
Well, this may be tied into the Mandela effect. Years ago, before this was an issue, the only real, for example, rice cooking time differential would be depending upon the altitude you were at. If you were in the mountains, for example, in Colorado, you had to add a certain amount of time for the water to boil, for things to cook, because there was an effect from being further from the Earth's center.
Do you have an equation, Sam?
I don't, and but I think people who've been in mountains experience this, know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, when I was in Peru, that's exactly what happened. It actually took longer to cook things. It took longer to boil water when I was in the mountains, like high up in the mountains of Peru. I can attest.
That's kind of I get that because of pressures and stuff like that.
So my question is this, Darren.
But nothing that I did not all of a sudden go up 1,000 feet in my kitchen.
Well, that's why I'm bringing this point out, because perhaps the Schumann resonance is now having an effect on the way in which material reality actually behaves. It does allow your rice to cook faster at the lower altitude, or it does allow some sort of manipulation factor there. I've experienced things similar to what you all are describing in terms of driving specified distances, and at times it takes less time and other times it takes more time, and I'm very aware I'm driving at the same speed every time I drive it. So yeah, that's not supposed to be theoretically physically possible under the speed of light. If you're going slower than the speed of light, that's not supposed to be an observable effect, but yet we are starting to observe that. So as I'm bringing that question into play, perhaps this is now a variable due to Mandela effect.
See, I call it.
Go ahead. Sorry, you go.
I call that presence. When you're present in a moment, time serves no purpose. You're grounded in reality. I think. But then again, I've been in situations, especially when you work out, where I do the Stairmaster, for example, and I'm on the Stairmaster, and it hurts. It hurts as soon as you start, right? But I always tell myself, and I learned this trick a long time ago, there is no time, there is no pain. Please find a way to get through it. And an hour later, I'm getting off of the machine. When it was killing me the first 5 or 10 minutes. But as soon as I start repeating in my head that there is no time, there is no pain, there is no time, there is no pain, I can survive and get through it. But if I'm on the machine and I look down and I'm saying, oh shit, I got 50 more minutes, I'm done. I got to get off the machine. So it's almost like I got to trick my mind to overcome this obstacle, and what happens is you lose all sense of time.
It sounds like you're controlling your focus, attention, and that's creating part of the influence of your experience, which goes in hand with Bill's comment about the flow and Terrence's comment about the expectation of the
I guess
race.
So the flow can actually give you a sense of a loss of time
and euphoria.
To your point,
yeah, definitely.
Right.
Have you guys ever experienced when you travel, say, an hour or an hour and a half somewhere in a car, and then you go back, it actually seems faster than going? Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
I find that kind of weird in itself.
All the time.
Where does your mother-in-law fit into that equation?
Going back is always faster. That's weird.
It is. I think it's all the cognitive pattern recognition you give to the experience. Even if it's like a place you haven't visited for a year, some of those nuances are going to be new. Somebody might put a yard sign up. It might be snowing. It might be raining. All those things contribute. And then when you go back, you're like, I've seen that. So your brain shuts down, and the whole experience is more of a focused experience because your brain is somewhat shutting down. And I'm not saying, I wanted to kind of capstone what Sam was saying in a response to you, Vegan. I read a phenomenologist, a professor of phenomenology. He said that when you concentrate your attention and intention on one thing, what you're really doing is isolating a sense, right? So one thing I would like to bring up for you to think about, and I'm going to think about the things you bring up. That's what I love about these exchanges we have on Dr. Taryn's Roundtable. When you said you get into the presence or the ultimate reality. I would disagree. I think you're actually going against the ultimate reality when you're in what you call the present, because you're isolating your sense to force yourself to behave in a way that is mechanized to your will. And when you're doing those stair steps or when you're lifting those weights, you're actually far away from the reality of the situation, because the reality situation, as this professor of phenomenology suggests, he said that the reality of the situation would be all of your senses, not one sense isolated. And I feel as if your focused intention and attention would be an isolated situation. I just want to bring that to you as a gift of suggestion.
That's a good point. But the one fact is I'm still climbing up the steps in that moment. So I mean,
right.
you can't say that's not real because I'm actually doing it.
But is it the
right?
pure reality compared to the all reality, which would be all your senses working at once? What I'm saying is you're isolating a perspective, and that perspective is dislocated from the general awareness of everything. That's all I'm saying. And it's just food for thought, my friend.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it as that.
Okay, I'm hesitant on the next subject. I'm dancing with it because it is a sensory subject, but I'm going to bring it up because it's come up so many times in the comments. This is something I haven't heard too many people talk about, but it keeps repeating, is their smell has changed. Now, some people say, one woman said it was almost like when she got pregnant. This is a big complaint when pregnant women, they get more sensitive to smells, and certain things make them sick all of a sudden. Well, they're saying since the Mandela effect happened, it's like they got pregnancy nose, that they're getting sick and they're more sensitive. All three of the people that said this were women. It wasn't men. But I'm curious. One woman said that
I don't think men will get pregnancy nose.
Well, here's what I want to get across, though. This is really interesting. She said she could smell the difference between people who are in this reality and background people. That the background people, the fake people, or the ones that people say don't really exist, you know, they're just here to make experiences flow. She says they smell like
drones.
I'm sorry, what?
The sheep or the drones.
Well, let me finish this topic. She says they actually smell kind of like, people on crack.
Death.
I don't know if you've ever been around crackheads, but you can smell chemicals coming out of them. I don't know if you've really been around crackheads. Like I've had some come into practice. They smell like chemicals coming out of their skin. You know what crackheads smell like. And she's saying that that's what the fake people smell, that she can't even go around them. It makes her nauseous. So I'm going to throw this out to the one woman we have that's still left, Lindsay. Since most everybody that's talking about this are women, what's your opinion on this?
Sorry. With being able to smell people who are awakened.
Or just if you've noticed your smell change, or if you've seen other women in the chat room talking about their smell changing. I haven't seen any men bring it up, but I keep hearing women.
It's an unusual subject, man.
I haven't noticed it in relation to the Mandela effect, but I can say that when I've gone through, I've done fasting a number of times. There was a period in my life where I was doing fasting every 6 months. And I mean, when I say fasting, it was a significant time. It was a significant, cleanse. And when I would be in those periods, I could smell just about anything about a person's physiology. I could smell if there was disease in their body. I could smell their state of health. I could smell their stress level. I know that this all sounds kind of out there, but it just start to be able to.
Women really experience stuff through their smell a lot more than men.
Yeah, and it was it was really intense because it felt like like you're with your friend and she's going through a hard time, and she really smelled awful. And normally I wouldn't be able to smell those feelings off of her, but I really could because, well, her physiology was reflecting her inner world, like whether it was her hormones, whether it was her nutrition level, who knows. But I have noticed that you know, since that period of time where I did so many cleanses and I did so much fasting and I put so much intention into, you know, those practices, that my sense of smell now is really refined. I find that I can sense, like that's actually one of, if we're going to talk about senses as being tools, it's one of my greatest tools for sensing what's going on in my environment. I don't know if that makes a difference. As for like somebody's frequency resonance, I think that those things all go hand in hand. Like, I honestly do. I think that one's full and whole wellness, like it's all relevant. You can't, you know, eat crap food and be in that kind of lifestyle that doesn't look after the whole of the self.
I got
without
you.
It having.
I was more trying to direct this towards like ME, if there was a smell change. I know, you know, some people have hearing changes. Some people, I had someone in the room the other night tell me they stopped being colorblind, that the ME fixed their colorblind, which I've never heard that one either. So I wanted to now change this over to the men. Men, have you heard of any sensory changes, especially smell or sight? Say,
I haven't heard any changes yet, but I wanted to just put out a small science fact, a funny one actually. They did research into the difference of smell between men and women, and it was found that they actually do have, on average, more smell receptors than men. So they do physically smell better than we do. As for smell, I haven't
always found
personally.
women smell better myself as well.
I haven't personally noticed any difference in smelling myself, but I haven't really consciously thought about it either. So, but I just wanted to put that science fact out there.
Well, I've noticed that the speed of hearing things is dramatically altered. It seems like I've got to watch everyone on 1.25 or 1.5 setting when I'm trying to watch different things on YouTube, and then when I go back to you know, Netflix or Hulu, or I'm watching or listening to an album, sometimes the things I'm still hearing sound like they're on this higher speed setting, and other times they're so incredibly slow that it's just boring me to death. I can't tolerate not getting more information, so I'll turn on 2 or 3 things at the same time just to get that sensory input. You know, have any of you experienced anything along those lines?
I mean, there was talk about ringing in your ears. I kind of have that almost constantly, and I don't remember a life before that anymore. There must have been a life before that, but I don't remember it anymore.
I think ringing in the ears is misconceived as actually the head chakra resonating energy. I think that's the difference that people are getting confused with.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring up something.
That could be. That could be.
I want to bring this up. This is something that has been happening to me for a few years, and it happens to the point probably 3 to 4 times a month here, but it used to be really rare. I can hear faint music playing, and at first I thought it was like maybe my neighbors or something, and it's too hard to really tell what it is. It's like a sort of weird music, and it started for me years ago, and I used to live on a 50-acre farm in the middle of the woods with absolutely no neighbors.
I'm jealous.
I used to hear that when I turned off all the TVs and stuff, I'd hear this faint music. I was like, where the hell is this music coming from? And I'd get up and look around, and when you turn your head, it kind of disappears. And when you turn your head, it disappears, and you lay back down and you hear it again. And I'm wondering, the people in the chat room say they've heard music too. And once in a while, I can get Kate to hear it too. I'll be like, there it is. Do you hear it? Do you hear it? And she can hear it. I'm wondering, maybe since the realities are kind of meshed together right now, am I hearing music from another reality? What is going on? So I'm going to pass this on to the group. And yeah, look, there's a bunch of people in the chat room talking about it right now. They say they hear some stuff like that once in a while too. It sounds like a really far off radio station.
See, I question whether this really is like, you know, this Mandela effect where suddenly we just have this different sense. I actually believe that this is a strengthening of something that we all were capable of anyway, because that, like what you're describing and what everyone else seems to be describing, I mean, I've heard those things most of my life. In fact, I remember in my house, like this house I'm living in right now, this was something that people often talked about who would stay overnight here. I remember my mom talking about it. I remember my brother talking about it. It just, you would be down the hallway and you could hear music, you could hear voices, you could, you know, and it was different than like, you know, like a ghost paranormal experience. It would sound like someone had the TV on in the other room. And as you would walk down the hallway, and you could hear it, it was realistically there. You could hear the music, you could hear the sound. And as you walked in the room, it's just like as if it slowly, slowly, slowly dissipated till it was almost like the reality started to come to light that there is no TV on, there's nobody up here, there's no one there. And this has happened to me frequently in my house, and I mean, I have no answers as to why, but I often thought that it's a certain frequency, like whether there's a vortex here, like an energy vortex, or something kind of a process.
To me, it sounds like really faint big band music. Like there's definitely some sort of orchestral component, but it sounds like a little bit of swing once in a while, or a little bluegrass. It's very odd. It's almost like I'm picking up music from a different time period.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard.
Apparently, radio waves never stop going around the world. I read a while ago. Yeah, they continue.
Yeah, I never thought
forever.
about that. Radio waves could just be bouncing around the ionosphere for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're more aware of it. Suddenly, as we're coming into this awakening, our ability to actually like hear these things are like we're tapping into abilities in our senses that perhaps
the receptors.
Yeah, the receptors have opened wider for many, and then those who maybe had those open receptors, like as I say, like I don't know, like I've always kind of had that experience, and I shared it with my ex, and we'd often like, oh, do you hear that? And it would be different types of music. It would sound like a radio. Like I actually really do believe it probably does have something to do with the radio.
I can't believe this, how many people in the chat room are talking about that they hear it too. This must be a thing where we're on. Does anyone else in the room ever hear it? I want to let you other guests chime in.
Sure. I've also found it interesting that years ago I heard an interview with Lionel Richie and at another time Paul McCartney, who both gave the testimony that they actually heard, when doing various things, the popular songs that they wrote before they wrote them. So Lionel Richie was talking about several of his famous songs being written while he was in the shower, and he'd be humming or singing what he was hearing, and then he'd realize, I've never heard that before in reality, and he writes it down, and it might be some sort of connection with the spiritual realm, and their sensitivity as musicians allowed them a little bit greater sensitivity to receiving it. Whereas most of us in the quote normal category, perhaps because hearing is the lower frequencies of the energy spectrum that we're exposed to, and it's closer to the human resonance. I mean, most people start to hear things between 15 and 20,000 cycles per second, while the Schumann resonance was 7.8 cycles per second, 8.3, and has now gone up near 60 cycles per second. So still very sub-audible, but yet the brain, which is functioning at microwave frequencies, the low range of the AM area to begin with, may be more likely to be triggered by some of the resonant microwaves that are in the atmosphere from broadcasting. It may be phantom sounds are being created because this microwave harmonic occurrence within the brain is triggering some of those cells. It's a beautiful thing. I've experienced it rarely, but it's really kind of cool. It's like, oh, wow, that is lovely. And yet, it's not your ears producing that experience. I wonder if Gabby, when she experiences some of the visual dualities, is maybe experiencing a higher resonance along these same lines, that from the other dimensions, or because of resonant frequency vibrations that are echoing in within her own brain that are also indirectly from microwaves. Those are certainly considerations. What do you guys think about that?
Anything's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. Because sometimes I kind of wonder, I mean, just kind of dip into some of the old subjects that we were talking about, and like, you know, kind of the sleep paralysis and the idea of there being, you know, sort of seeing or having kind of like an interaction with an other in those subconscious states or subconscious places. Again, reaching back to is the door open or is it an archive or is it both? You know, I actually believe it's both simultaneously, you know, the loop as Oros was talking about.
Well, that's
and
binary.
inside of that,
in itself.
yeah, and inside of that circle.
Yeah.
Well, it's post-structural if everything is simultaneous, because binary opposition would be sequential.
Yeah. Well, at any rate,
sequential is binary.
It is, but it's post-structural.
If we have a relationship,
post or pre-binary.
if we have relationships and bonds with one another here in this realm, and that, you know, creates a resonance and it creates a data. I actually believe, because, you know, I do believe in the spirit world. I do believe in afterlife. I do believe that those things exist. It's, you know, this is things I believe from a cultural perspective. You know, like, I'm not going to go into detail, but I have many, many stories, and many people around me have stories that do verify that there is evidence of that realm existing. Well, what are those relationships and bonds that we have with other entities, with other beings, with other, you know, like we do share energy with all. And sometimes I wonder, well, are these things that we're picking up on, again, simultaneously, the radio waves and the frequencies that are existing in our environment, but are they also those moments where something drops down and, like,
spiritual connections? Yeah.
Spiritual connection. Is it the resonance between you and in that bond with something else that perhaps you can't see or perceive?
Yeah. Lindsay, I think if we could quantify it, you'd be able to find out that there are frequencies that come across from your higher self, that we could tune into that frequency when, you know, your mind's talking to you from a higher source. I think like we just keep coming back to, almost everything's frequency, and I would imagine that other entities and other beings from higher places are talking at frequencies that we haven't even found.
Well, there's the quantum entanglement theory too, which presents the idea that the communication through the quantum field is not even actually a detectable frequency. That it is an entirely different kind of connection that does not regard space. It can be, you know, like some people have had experiences where a relative, especially twins, have this. They know something that their twin is going through, could be thousands of miles, and they instantly know such and such may have happened, or they get a mental picture telepathically, and it has nothing to do with a frequency of any kind. It has to do with the quantum field passing it along and coming up sort of like a well, bubbling its water.
I think you're onto something there, Sam, because in my magnum opus, Born Classified, A Poverty of the Visible Spectrum, I say I write letter language, call it spooky action at a distance, because a lot of people don't think about writing and reading this way, but when I read a book from a dead author, it's practically quantum entanglement. Yes, I am applying my cultural nuance, and I'm applying my own comprehension to his work. But at the same time, he's dead, and his letters through this frequency of matter pass through my senses into my brain, and he's communicating to me, right? And space is irrelevant. So to me, when I read something, I always think about the pre-quantum entanglement. I think reading and writing and the way we encode and decode things through technology is the, I want to say, the primitive quantum entanglement. Without having the quantified mathematical variables distinguishable, we've been doing what we call quantum entanglement forever. We've been encoding and decoding and bypassing time and space through technology for years. I mean, it's just amazing to me that the things I write on this noosphere will potentially outlive this flesh shell as I externalize things in a flash.
It'd be kind of neat to think that if for some reason someone finds this chat 100 years from now, like that they would actually be connecting with us on some sort of energetic level.
Right, it's quantum entanglement at a strange primitive level.
Well,
Well,
in
even
a sense,
chat,
if you have
ideas that came from this chat actually did pass and become knowledge and data that then exists 100 years from now.
if you have every thought arranging the atoms of your brain in a specific pattern, which is in fact a definition of that particular specific focused thought, and then the words you've written down, or in this case recorded, and someone hears it later, then does it imply that when they understand what you've said,
it's
their
spooky
brain
action
is rearranged into that pattern, and you've in fact passed along that quantum entanglement message? And perhaps it's something that also resonates through the quantum field. And
right,
what else is art? What else is art? That's what art is. Art resonates and it passes along an idea, or you know, like basically a patterning, and we take in that art, we receive it, and it creates and transforms within us. That's inspiration.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
I don't know about you guys, but the word quantum is limiting in itself because it's QUA, it's 4, you know, it's more, it's only referring to the 4th dimension. So I think there's a lot more than quantum.
There'll be infinite mechanics soon.
Well, some of the bizarre behaviors of quantum field theory
numerology
are that all, like an electron, they're positing now that an electron takes all possible paths at the same exact moment each time it, you know, every moment of wave action that occurs and passes, which means that even though there's this implied presence of time, because a wave is in fact this process of a wave present, a wave absent, a wave present, a wave absent. It's just a question of how rapidly that it's doing something in terms of distance as it moves, where it is taking every possible distance path simultaneously. And same with the quarks that make up the protons. And if in fact that's the case, every possible combination that we can live, that's how it happens. It's happening through these multiple presences. And these are just the particles of the atom, which implies that that is the portion we share in common with all these other dimensions, whereas we are distinct because the other parts of those atoms are in fact individuated into this reality. So you see what I mean? It's like it's like making a cake and having the eggs share all the cakes commonly, but all the rest of the components of the cake are unique to that particular dimension. And by the way, I wondered what you guys thought of the concept that we now live in something called Franken-Earth.
Very possible.
I kind of like that. That's pretty funny.
Zombie
very,
Earth.
very good. Vegan, you want to chime in on this? You've been quiet for a while.
I mean, I just want to know these people that come up with these theories and these descriptions of what reality is and quantum and all these other things.
We're back on this. I thought we were talking about music. You're in music.
Hey,
I'm going by what they just talked about. We just believe whatever the hell the scientists tell us. So I don't have nothing to say about that.
No,
I just want to know the evidence. Show me the
vegan.
evidence.
I go back and forth on because
show me the money.
There we go.
I'll be
quiet.
I'm not a
go
huge
ahead.
science you know, I mean, I studied a lot of science in my past. I've got multiple degrees in biology and chemistry and all kinds of stuff. But so I understand science. But what I realize is, and I've said this a few times on the show, is 50. You know, if you go down you listen to science now, they say just ignore everything we said 50 years ago. It was all wrong. And then if we go 50 years in the future, they're going to be looking at this conversation and laughing at us about the idea of quantum physics. So it's the best reality we have to. It's the best guess we have of what's going on right now.
There's a difference between the scientific method and theoretical science. Do not compare the two. It's two complete different things.
There's
plenty of studies that are BS.
Chemistry, and then throw astrophysics in it. You know what I mean? It's a difference. There's a difference.
Can I just react?
Wait, guys, calm it down for a sec. Raphael, go ahead, buddy.
Can I just react on that?
All right, go ahead, Raphael.
Every time I open my mouth,
can I finish, please? Can I finish?
Sure, go ahead. Sure, go. 5 against 1.
No, I'm not against you. Please,
don't say that.
I'm not against you. It's just
every time I open my mouth, there's 5 people speaking.
No,
I agree, guys, and he's right on something. You guys don't let him finish what he's saying. You're jumping in, and we're kind of becoming like a real talk show, and I don't like that. So yeah, let him.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that.
Let me finish. Let me finish. I want to make sure the energy comes back up in a positive place. So let's just try to respect each other and let each other finish our sentences. I'm just
sweet as man.
I put it out there that I was saying is, you know, I feel like science changes what it believes in so much that, yeah, there's scientific methods and theories and all that stuff, but I don't necessarily, I go with so much more what I believe in my gut and what I feel from the universe, because every scientific study I can show another one that says exactly the opposite, depending on who paid for it and who funded it. You know, I don't put a bunch of faith in studies. Don't.
Well, there's only one scientific method, and I think that's the heart. When we say science, what they're talking about is the scientific method. Everything that we benefit from in our reality from science comes from the scientific method. Scientific theory is a completely different animal. It's some guy sitting around saying, okay, I think the universe is this, I think the universe is that, and without a shred of evidence. It's an ideal, it's a concept. And I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, but it's a theory. I said this earlier, it's a theory.
It's not inherent. It's not inherent.
Now, the communications of a cell phone from one end of the planet to another, that's a scientific method. Don't confuse dogma with scientific method. It's two different things. And when people start talking this astrophysics and cosmology, you are talking dogma.
All right, that's fair points, and I'm going to concede on that because he's right that there's a difference between science, that working science of stuff, and theory. I get that. I mean, we kind of understand how electricity works, but a lot of it also is based on theory. We really don't know how the electrons flow. A lot of it's guessing that it does, but somehow we got lights on. So yeah, some of it's
still
real,
binary.
Still theory. And I think that he's saying that's all he's saying is that we're not making a difference. We keep spilling into it we keep overlapping the two things, and they're different. That's all I think he's trying to get across.
That's all I'm saying.
The scientific method
is fair.
It has its place as a tool, but there's only a small percentage of what we classify as what we know that is actually able to be verified by the scientific method. And in a court of law, they point out a lot of the different kinds of evidences that are considered valid for believing something. So, for example, any historical event that has occurred is not something that can be verified through the scientific method. The scientific method is simply the concept that you can repeat and verify the behavior or outcome of a given hypothesis. Well, you know, Abraham Lincoln was only shot once, so can we know that was real? Kennedy as well. So the idea here is that there are kinds of experiences that we know are real through other sources of verification. Eyewitness testimony, perhaps a recording made with film or sound, the presence through our own experience. These are all things that have various weight in helping us to determine the reality or existence of something that took place.
I agree.
Even enemy testimony and opposing testimony becomes
I
a
agree.
proof.
Now apply
in a certain sense.
everything you just said to string theory and these black holes and all this other stuff.
Sure.
But there's still a problem.
Apply the evidence other than blind trust in the theorists, right? Other than that, show me evidence of these quantum dimensions.
But
Well,
there's still
here's-
the problem of projection of
That's all I'm
deception.
asking.
I mean, I saw two suns the other day. I mean, you know, like
I know,
there's
man.
Can I take a
a lot
picture?
of anecdotal
I
stuff.
saw them years ago too, son.
I-
Reflection of chemtrails.
I just have to ask Sam one thing. What about the projection of deception? Because I've personally known, I've seen a news story on television that I know what they reported. I'm not going to go into detail, but the point is the verdict, the crime, everything was projected through the analysis of journalism, and they gathered the evidence, they gathered the witnesses. But the key conscious, or the consciousness that produced everything, was projecting deception. So it distorted the rest of reality.
Oh, sure.
This is why I believe in secret societies. This is also why I believe that everything we know could be
Oh,
false.
they exist, definitely.
And that's how I believe the rest of us think too. So we always got to be cautious that even if we have fantastic scientific tools, there's always this possibility that the human mind will consciously deceive us for whatever betterment they believe is to occur through their deception.
This is a saying from the past. In order to know your enemy, you have to have your enemy closer than your friends. Have you guys heard that before?
Well, I think that's why the Bible said, "Be wise as a serpent."
And it's harmless
Yeah,
as
maybe.
doves.
Can I just
I didn't read the Bible.
Can I just please cut in, because I actually have to go. Because,
Yeah, it is probably pretty late in Belgium. Go ahead, buddy.
Judy is calling, but I wanted to talk about science. I want to say some stuff. First of all, there are scientific principles that are around for more than 50 years, some mathematical even for, I think, hundreds of years. That's one. And two, you have to believe science. It's just like religion and spirituality. Science is a journey. We have come onto a point in this time where the journey is now, and 50 years from now, they're gonna maybe look back and say, quantum physics, what was that all about? But if we hadn't come to the point now, we wouldn't get to the same point in the future. Or that's what I wanted to say. And I'm gonna have to say goodbye now.
No.
And I wanted, yeah, I'm very sorry because Judy is calling.
Ahead, man. It's really late.
Cheers, buddy.
What I wanted to say was this. I wanted to say to the panel and the people in the chat room, and I want to make a special invitation to Vegan because he has got a lot of heat today again. And I wanted to say I really enjoy hearing all your opinions, and I really have a deep respect for all your theories. It is actually enriching my life in a way I never thought possible. And
that's
thank you
what it's
very
all
much
about,
for
man. That's
all of
what
that.
it's all about.
Even if it doesn't match my theories or my thinking, it's still enriching to me. So thank you very much, all of you, and I hope to see you next time or another time. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, my friend.
Yeah, I think he was touching on exactly what I was trying to get at. Not that these exact ideas are what are going to like be replicated 100 years from now, but rather that this moment happening right now leads. It's a building of thought. It's a building of knowledge, and it just continues to build, and we continue to extend upon it and expand upon it, and eventually in 100 years,
it's going to be a butterfly effect in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to respond to Joel's comments about perception manipulation, perception alteration, or whether it's intentional or if it's a occurrence that happens because of our own cultural influence. The big thing about, quote, knowing the truth is trying to arrive at what is most likely to represent the physical reality experience understanding that either actually occurred or one that we're trying to understand.
Sam, can I clarify after Raphael kind of put in some words that I agree with?
Sure.
There's a difference between the human interest story, which I was describing, and I should have clarified initially, it's my fault, and between that and scientific fact, because we know through peer review, you can replicate a study on a natural element, and it's not going to practice or project deception. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I understand that point. But when it comes to human investigation and human interest stories, there's always that element of surprise or deception that we have to take into account, because humans are what they are, and their cognition can produce variables that are beyond our comprehension because it's deliberately deceptive.
All right, I want to jump in for a bit and wrap this up because we're kind of past our time. I'm going to let the guests all have a word before I go. So. All right. So here's the deal. There's a couple people that we've been talking, and I keep saying we're going to try this group manifest thing. We're narrowing it down. We almost have a person picked out, so that keeps getting asked. You know, when are we doing that? When are we going to do that? Hopefully soon on a live show, we're going to try it. We're trying to find a missing person that we like in the community to try. And so that's in motion still. The other thing is, like I said earlier in the show, we have moved over to the Discord, and I'm going to post the servers in a little bit. So I hope this conversation keeps going over there. I have to say major thanks to everybody. I'm going to see if I can screen share this here. But I have gotten some serious love with donations tonight, and I would be a jerk not to say thank you. So I hope everybody can see that. I mean, just look at all these people, these great people. Princess, David Voy, Michelle, again, Wilson, Rob Dean, man, and Danny. I mean, gosh, there's just so much. I love a bit of Venom. It's fake money, but it works in the fake world.
You're doing something nobody else is doing.
Monopoly money.
And then Liz donated twice. I don't know what that's about, but thank you, Liz. I mean, look at him. So did Rob. Rob donated twice. And Al Portal, E-Wiz, geez Louise. You guys, candy's always coming through. It's so unexpected and really, really just appreciate it to death. I never thought anything like this. And I didn't even have to bring it up. People just donated. It's great. So
good.
thank you for that.
Great, man.
Keeps the lights on.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let people have a good heart about it.
Yeah, there was this, I made this story because there was some controversy that I dared even mention, hey, there's a new feature, and it blew up into a big thing, and I think people kind of
one lady.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to pick on her, but it's just I'm just really surprised how weird our society is about talking about money. Like, it's gotten so bad that all right, so here's what happened. I just simply said, Google put in this super chat feature where you can hit the $ and donate. Yeah. And if someone's not watching this, they're not going to see that. They don't know what we're talking about. But during the live chat, there's a donate button now. And it just came on, and nobody knew what it was. I mean, I've never seen it before. So I was like, hey, this is what this button is. You donate, and it shows your because if you're reading the chat, it comes through at rocket speed, and it's really hard to see it. And wow. And so that's all I said, and it became this big controversial thing about money. And so I had to help make an entire story on it. It was crazy. So I didn't even bring it up this time, and but I am going to be super grateful.
That was freaky shit too, man, because there's 3 comments that lady made, and 2 of them were on my fucking sorry.
Oh, hey, man, come on now.
Sorry. On my blah 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 in comment thread.
Well, I appreciate. I know it was in yours, right? And I appreciate that. And again, I'm not trying to make it about this lady. And well, Karen just donated just a second ago at the last minute. Thank you. This is just, it just blows me away, because it's going to get to a time where, you know, I can't trust YouTube completely to pay the bills, and you can never really trust YouTube 100%. So I just,
yeah. What I found weird was, Taryn, the other day when you put out that video, I noticed that the Ouroboros principle comments only said 9 or something on your video. Remember that round table? On the roundtable results of that Ouroboros principle roundtable that you had.
Yeah, I remember that.
On that video, it said you only had 9 comments on that video.
Weird.
I don't know. YouTube. All right. So ever since YouTube like updated, nothing works right. The comments disappear and they vanish, and people will be like, "Why is my comments?" And then here's something else, guys. If you post links in your comments, like you're like, "Hey, go check out this other story," it throws it in my spam box, and then I have to go and approve it. So a lot of times someone will post a comment with like a link, and I won't be able to actually use it because I'm sorry, you won't see your own comment under the thread because you have a link attached until I approve it. And I pretty much approve anything. I mean, I if you've seen me, I'm like, yeah, go ahead and pitch whatever you want. As long as you're not just openly like advertising something, but if it's something useful, sure, I let it in there. But the problem is it gets stuck in quarantine until I approve it, and sometimes it takes me a day to find it. And the other thing is, if you go crazy commenting, if say you go through all my threads and you comment like to every other person, or you go through and comment on like 20 videos, YouTube automatically like quarantines and sticks your stuff in spam because they think you're spammy, even if the comments are good. So I have to go and approve all those too. So a lot of people will be like, did you delete my comments and all this stuff? And I'm like, no, man, YouTube just puts them in quarantine until I approve them. So there you guys.
Well, and I will admit that I did insert a cryptogram during our interview. If you decode it, and maybe Google did, I put audit the Fed. I know I'm not supposed to swear on this. I'm sorry.
No, you're allowed to say audit the Fed all you want. Dave Void just dropped me a little extra money. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that a lot. And I don't really know what's. Again, this isn't about money, but I'm getting donations, and I would be a real jerk to not acknowledge those and be grateful. So that's what this is about. And for the people that didn't understand what I was talking about, I'll just give you a little backstory. There's a whole story about that. Go look for me with a little top hat, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That thumbs down. The other thing I want to give you guys is I'm going to drop the links now. And before, if you came in, a lot of these people come in halfway in the show. The Discord is where we're at now. We're moving away from the Google chat rooms, and the Telegram just didn't work. I know it sounds like, we've been trying, but this is like been experiments. I'm going to see if I can drop these in. There, you'll see 2 different chats appear. You'll see one that is the main chat room, and then the other is the Christian chat room. So, geez, I hope that worked. If not, Candy and oh no, that link didn't work too well. Candy and you guys, can you my helpers here, can you guys make sure that these links go out, the Discord links? Now what you do is just join. We will teach you how to use it. There's like a little video in there that'll show you how. Hopefully you guys can use those. Just copy and paste them if you can't use those. I'm really excited about that. And we're going to keep going with this conversation. But first, I want to give the chat, my guest, a big thank you. And it got a little weird tonight, but I'm glad we reeled it back in. And hopefully we come out here with a nice, positive, happy message. Remember, no matter how much negative in the world is, it's how you interpret it, man. If you go looking for negative, there's negative everywhere. You want to make your world happy and positive by just focusing on the good things, and sure, acknowledge the negative, but I'm going to be a broken record and constantly tell you to, because it's so easy to go down the negative hole, man. That's what society is a negative hole. That you gotta focus.
You gotta understand your enemy.
Well, I don't even like saying enemy. They're just like, I don't have any enemies. They're just people that screw with me. I don't care.
You gotta understand your fallacy.
It's just that's it. I know people are like, there's some people that just don't get it. They're like, well, you can't just stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and ignore everything. And I'm like, If you can make
Yeah.
your own reality, and Mandela Effect,
Yeah.
you know, pretty much proves that this reality is fake. Yeah, you can. You know, I'm a living proof of it. It's how I live. So, yeah, you can. You can ignore all the negative as much as you can and just focus on the positive, and life gets a lot better. You know, if
It does
something
for
negative,
you, but does it? It does for you, but does it get better for the other people that aren't
I don't
experiencing the same thing?
think they're real in a sense that my reality is
Yeah.
focused.
No.
You know,
This will work for a while, but you can't exist in a positive bubble only. You know,
I think you bring other people into that bubble with you, Lance.
Yeah.
be able to have both simultaneously exist and be able to
Yeah.
acknowledge their existence. It's that simple. It doesn't mean you have to go down with the bad things that are happening. It means that you're
No.
aware that it exists, and you're aware and you see it. You
I've
acknowledge
never said different,
Yeah.
Mel. I've always said, you know, I'm sorry, Lindsay. I've always said that you could acknowledge it and notice, yeah, these things happen, but then find the good thing and move on. Because otherwise, you know,
But that's the thing,
my job is not to save everybody. My job is to try to
that's
help
the thing. Who
people
said
save
you have
them.
to save anybody? Who
Yeah,
said
I'm not supposed
ever
to.
said or gave you the obligation of saving anybody? That's the whole thing. And it's the ego that assigns this meaning to negative experiences or negative happenings as being something we have to save or rescue, as opposed to holding something capable and able, and as opposed
I
to shedding
want
light
to save
on
everybody. Yeah.
Fair enough. I didn't say that the best way I could have, probably.
Well, it's a natural instinct for us to want to help the young children across the deep water.
Oh yeah, and we should always continue.
When I said, like, hey, focus on your own life and try to make it more positive, you help everybody else by doing that. And people are like, well, what about everybody else in the world if you're just focusing on yourself? And it's like, when you bring your vibe up, it helps everybody.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
true.
Oh, I'm not even
That's
arguing
one of
that at all.
that's one of the many variables on the binary theory and yin and yang and all the variables of computer language.
You can also add to that, you really can't help anyone else until you help yourself. So
Exactly.
if you're not living
True.
positive, how are you going to project
True.
positivity?
You're right, Vegan. Galileo said you cannot teach a man anything; he must experience it.
Yeah.
I think you know, that's it. Is if I don't think any of us are as positive in our lives as we want to be. I mean, hopefully we're going there, but I sure as heck could use a lot more positivity and better things. You know, I want to be a better person. I'm not done.
We realized we were born into a non-positive control mechanism when we were young. We realized this, so we didn't create that. So, you know.
Well, there is a certain dynamic of energy that occurs when good people get together. And when we're by ourselves, you know, there's more of a challenge to keep our thoughts structured and occurring in a way that we don't get overwhelmed.
Balance the atom.
Yeah, and Taryn, you have really pursued a line of understanding how to walk that as an individual, and you bring that as you describe various things you've been challenged with and overcome. You bring that to us in an understanding way. So when we are away from the group and walking individually, you've enriched us. You've strengthened us. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I'm not trying to say like my life's perfect or I have answers, but I've come from a dark place to a light place, and here's some tools I used. Maybe it can help you.
It's worked.
You know?
Definitely, man. I agree. I totally
real.
agree with you that way. I totally agree with you, and love to you, man. I appreciate it.
Love back.
Love to everyone. Yeah.
Down under.
Happy Dome versus Thunderdome.
Anybody want some last words before I actually hit this the way I was supposed to? I didn't stop
Not
in the middle
like
of
the
it.
accident before.
Yeah,
I'd like
I feel
to,
so embarrassed about that. It's so unprofessional.
Say a shout out to the fans that are watching the show, and thank you for supporting Taryn to make his life a little easier so he can continue to bring us good things and sponsor these kinds of chats. That's respectable. Good job for contributing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, guys. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody want to say anything? Vegan, poor Vegan got beat up on tonight, so you go ahead and take some of the last words here, buddy. Because I love
I'm never
you.
beat up. I'll never be
He's
that.
strong.
No, he's
good.
like
He's all good.
501, and I feel
Absolutely.
Well,
bad.
I would
don't
like
want
to
him feel
extend
that
like
way.
an olive branch to vegan.
Yeah, I don't want
I
him
will
to
say
feel that
this.
way.
There's a quote by Tolstoy, I believe, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing vegan, but he said that in order to end all brutality and war, the world would have to turn to veganism or vegetarianism. And I believe that because if we continue to slaughter animals, we are consenting to that idealistic trait through our dietary habits. So I totally respect on that level. I have nothing to argue about. Like there's nothing to project to deny your position. I think you're 100% right in what you're doing in that regard. So props to you, brother, and continue with that good fight, because I really think that the powers that be want us to consent to malevolent, evil behavior. And the way they do that is they try to get us to consent to slaughter lower, in their eyes, lower kingdom animals. And if we slaughter animals, they can call us animals, and they can slaughter us through war. So just thank you for supporting that perspective. I struggle with always trying not to like eat red meat and chicken and all that stuff. So in that regard, you are 100%.
Well, thank you. I'm not on no crusade with veganism. I've been through that. I've been through the promotion of veganism. I just kind of, I guess Doc touched on this. It's all about living your life and being an example, a positive example, So I share my lifestyle, I share my thoughts, and I leave it at that. I have no agenda. I don't get off being right. Some people argue points because they want to be right. I argue points because I really want to get the message out to share, so you can determine your own, or come to your own conclusions with your own perspectives. As far as right and wrong, I don't think it's quite possible to be right or wrong. To be right or wrong, you got to have the whole picture, everything in its entirety. And if you don't see everything in its entirety, who the hell are you to say what's right or what's wrong? So,
well, it seems like you live your conclusions, and that's why you're so
exactly.
skeptical of the theoretical.
Exactly.
I can see that,
Absolutely.
man. I can see that. And
you're 100% correct. You are 100. And the things I talk about, I practice, literally. So when it comes,
Can I ask you a question, vegan?
So,
can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
I've just become vegetarian 2 weeks ago for the first time in my life. Okay. But I can see the ethical way that people want to go vegetarian because of the the abuse on animals and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to say. But you know how the Hopi Indians and all the native Indians and stuff used to live in coherence with nature, and they used to not take too much from nature, and they used to eat meat, but they used to keep their meat going. And I'm just wondering whether it's like, you know what I'm getting at? It's why people have gone vegan and vegetarian is because of the bad energy created by those misabused animals in the first place.
Well, I see it a little deeper than that. I see it as a precedence. When you can kill something that's innocent, that did nothing to you, that is completely innocent, and their only crime is existing and you desiring to taste their flesh. If you can do that, what else can you do? I think
it is a natural food chain, though.
Talking about indigenous people, and you're talking about indigenous spiritual philosophy here by talking about the consumption of animals by native peoples and indigenous peoples in different contexts. And so I'd like to respond to this because, I mean, I'm listening, and I actually, my personal belief of our traditional diets was that we were mainly vegan, but that we also ate meat, because very honestly, especially in the region that I live in, we wouldn't have survived without meat. We wouldn't have survived without animal sustenance. And a part of our culture is honoring all sources of sustenance. We did not see animals as something lower than us that we kill. We actually saw a relationship, and we actually saw this as being, we are coexisting, and we are both benevolently living in this space on these lands together. We are both ancestral to these lands, like us and the animals whom we consume, because they consume us as well. And that we saw ourselves as part of the cycle. We live, we die, we return to that earth, we return to something that is also consumed, and that it's all a part of the same cycle, the same loop. And so therefore, everything must be treated with respect. You didn't hunt an animal who was lesser and lower and weaker than you. You hunted an animal that offered itself, because you made those prayers. You set that intention.
An animal that offered itself?
It was a sacred relationship between you and that animal. It was, and that those.
It's just a natural food chain. Natural food chain.
All right.
Vegan.
I'm going to cut in because I was trying to wrap
the
show up.
I was trying to give the final word.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead. But here's what I'm going to say. This is a good topic, and I think we could do a good chunk of another show on it, because, I feel like I get it. How are you? I think one thing most of us all could agree on, that factory farming's like horrible. I think it's such a low vibration thing. It's a good place to start on common ground. You
got 7 billion people on the planet. You need factory farming. Everybody wants to eat meat.
I get it, but why?
They can still treat the animals better.
But how low of a vibration are we putting out there by having factory farm slaughterhouses? Probably the closest thing to hell I can think of.
It doesn't matter. It's just food.
I don't feel that way.
It's not just food.
But
food is
that's what people do.
I know, I get it. And
there's so many variables and perceptions.
This is a topic for a whole nother night. We can't dive into this in 20 minutes and do justice.
We shouldn't.
So people need to stop asking me about veganism then, because if you ask me about veganism, I'm going to explain it.
And I'm going to give you a chance to explain it. I'll just have you on as a guest, and we'll talk it through, because I think it's hard to do.
Don't ask vegan warrior about veganism, because I'm going to answer.
And I want you to.
Billions of animals are being murdered. That's the reality.
It's the last 5 minutes of the show. That's all.
Tell your panel members
Sorry,
never ask me about veganism.
A bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just that you got to be able to handle the answer.
Okay,
you got to be. You asked a question. I'm going to give you the answer.
Vegan, you are completely right. You know what? I'm going to shut up and let you take the floor, and you answer it the way you want to answer it, because you're right. You should have the right to answer it correctly, because they brought it up. Give them the real answer. Do it. I'm going to shut up.
10 seconds. We reap what we sow.
Yeah.
We reap what we sow. If we kill innocent animals because they taste good, don't be surprised when we're killing each other with war, crime, suffering, and our societies collapse. It's that simple. And one last aspect of it. When you start talking about a life cycle, I don't agree with that, because we want to consider ourselves to be outside the food chain, because we call ourselves intelligent animals or intelligent beings, right? If we're so intelligent, why are we eating things and eating other living sentient beings when we don't have to? I'm a living proof of this. I am 225 pounds, and I've been vegan for 8 years. You do not need to eat animals to survive, but we still do it.
No, they used to.
He gets the last word. You open that door.
It's perspective, and it's not acknowledging a whole ancient history of people, and that's fine. You can have your perspective, and that's fine. I'm not even saying it's wrong or bad. As I said,
it's not even my perspective. It's my lifestyle. It's a difference.
I didn't ask you about your lifestyle. I was referring to that it was brought up about native values in terms of.
Well, why are you speaking?
Whoa,
you brought it up.
I chose to chime in and say
you feel the need to defend yourself. And I get it. I get it. You feel the need to defend yourself. But the reality is, I am living proof you do not need to kill innocent animals.
Oh,
It's
I
that
don't think
simple.
you need to, and I also don't. There's
Okay, so it's choice.
that's
It's
the
choice.
only reality. I think that there's all sort of, well, no, there's different realities here. There's different perspectives, and I think that there's room for that.
75% of the animals on the planet do not eat other animals. 75%, 25% are carnivorous. We are not even
How do you
built.
know that plants don't
We're
have
not.
as much
We're not.
spirit,
We're not
innocence,
even built to be carnivorous.
and
We have
ability
to cook.
in this world
We
as
have to
anything
cook.
else? We're
We
all
have to cook.
Hey, you guys are
Fresh
talking.
meat.
Guys, you're talking over each other. You're not even listening to each other. So I'm going to
We
step
have
in.
to. Okay, let's cut it.
Yeah, you guys are just talking at the same time. Neither is
Exactly.
listening. So
Nobody's hearing.
let's fix.
Oh no,
I give this.
I listened very thoroughly, and
You
then
guys were both talking, Lindsay. You were talking at the same time he was talking. You both were talking at the same time, not listening.
oh yeah, no, and I listened completely and thoroughly.
Hey,
and
I
then
understand.
when I bring up, it was like, okay, well, I'm just bringing this up, and again, I was cut off and cut off.
I get it.
No,
I get it.
talking.
I'm sorry. I'm actually sorry. I think
Why be
I
sorry?
caused
Yeah,
that.
he brought it up, but
I caused that in a way. Yeah.
Hey,
these are topics that
truth
need
is
to be dealt
uncomfortable.
with one day. We're going to have to open this because
Yeah.
it is a higher spiritual
Yeah.
thing that we need to talk about. This, and it is going to be heated because some people are going to feel like their lifestyle is attacked just because he lives his lifestyle a certain way.
I think that
To
they can
Vegan's
both
credit,
exist.
he didn't bring up. All he said is, "This is what I do with my life," and then people juxtaposed that position. They're like, "Well, I like meat," and I hear that all the time here, and I get it. That just by saying that you live a lifestyle without meat, you're on a plant-based diet, they immediately feel attacked. That why are you laughing at me, Chris? Because
No, I'm laughing at I'm laughing at my partner. She just pointed at the chicken that's defrosting on the bench.
All right. This has gone down. I'm just going to end this.
I don't.
We're
Sorry,
done.
I don't.
No,
So
it's
here's
fine.
what's going to happen.
It's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing, Doc. I don't see.
No,
it as
I
a bad
appreciate
thing.
it because I want to get in this conversation, but we got to calm down all the emotions around this. And I'm starting to lose myself on,
Mate,
and I need to get back
good.
into a happy, positive place.
Chill.
Because
chill. It's all good. Chill.
all right, yeah, chill out. And here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna get back in a happy place. We're gonna smile, take a breath, and we're gonna deal with it because it is a good question, and I really didn't want to bring it up in the last 5 minutes of a show. It needs to be flushed out, and we could talk about this.
Sorry for that.
Everyone can't handle the conversation, though.
I get it.
I'm not talking about anybody on this panel, but a lot of people can't handle it.
Vegan man, I understand, dude. Just the fact that you live your lifestyle a certain way is it's like an insult to people that don't. They just immediately think that you're calling them a bad person because you chose not to eat animals,
But
and
that is
by proxy
so
they do.
unconscious. That is so
Nah,
unconscious.
man, vegan. I get your whole thing.
Because
That's why I
I've
brought
never-
up that quote at the beginning, and you guys have went in circles around the quote I brought up, and you guys never even thought about the quote I brought up. So,
I was thinking about what.
but I agree with you.
All right. I mean, how can somebody else's lifestyle be offensive to you? I mean, you're choosing to do what you're doing. I'm choosing to do what I'm doing.
I'm
How
with
can
you,
I
and
offend someone? You know?
I think vegan that goes across so many borders. Why are people offended by homosexual lifestyle? Why are they offended by an anarchist lifestyle?
Yeah,
It's people just got to learn to stop judging, man. And hopefully we can do that because it's one of these
judging,
things that I feel.
People's perceptions.
Chris, let me finish for a sec.
Yeah.
All
Sorry.
right.
Can I
I
finish?
know you cut me off all night.
You're right.
Let me
Joking,
talk
sorry.
for a second. I'd appreciate that. So here's what I want to talk to you is I'm saying that we need to get past this as a species because I think one of the hardest things is not to judge. And how do we do that? Because we're so ingrained to judge each other. We're brought up to judge each other, and it's tough. I mean, almost like if there's some Buddhists that's all they concentrate is trying to get rid of judgment. That's like one of the most important lessons they have is get rid of judgment. And they spend a lifetime trying to do it. So for us, we need to work on that, I think, as a group, and hopefully we can we can dive into that more.
It's maybe a
it's a
topic
work in
for
I don't
future discussion
I think it's
because,
judgment.
This is all hidden judgment. All this anger is like,
well, here's the
No,
he
thing.
lives his life a certain
it's
way, and
people.
I'm going to judge.
We must live our lives with discernment. We cannot function without discernment. So judgment is part of how we function each day, but utilizing the information we gather in our discernment, which is a kind of judgment, is not to criticize or think ourselves more valuable, less valuable than others, but rather to help us assess who is it we're talking with and how we should interact with them and how we should encourage each other in that process. So it's not something we need to eliminate, it's something we need to learn to look at correctly. Does that make sense?
I agree.
I'm with you.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Because that was definitely, I think, just to clarify, because I feel like I don't know if this is the case, but I feel like it's being coined as if I was coming at this in this angry, like, defensive way. No, it was actually more like, okay, it was brought up as this native perspective on eating animals, and it was like, okay, I feel like I need to speak to this because I have a context for where that's coming from.
Yeah,
And
I got that.
and that this is my value, and you know what, I actually like relate more with veganism than I do with anything else. So really, I actually don't feel offended by a vegan lifestyle at all. What I did feel a little bit like, whoa, let's back up for a second, was just talking about this assumption of why animals are eaten in a certain context when there actually isn't any knowledge of that. And so I was trying to relay some of that knowledge. That's all I was doing. I wasn't trying to defend everyone must eat animals. It was actually more.
I get it.
Just think about before factory farming. Lindsay's perspective is super valid.
There are a
Yeah,
lot
like
of excuses. There are a lot of excuses to eat innocent animals. I've heard them all. At least I feel like I have. One is spirituality and ancestors and all these other things. But the bottom line is, if you do it kindly or not, you're still ending the life of another.
What about the Inuit?
For your own personal gain.
We need to leave this for the conversation Aaron was talking about, because it's just going to continue going in this way.
It's true. It
I
snowballs.
want to do this.
It's going to go in an Ouroboros circle.
It's such a hot topic that I think we need to actually give it the time to flush it out. Where earlier, remember, we were talking about time, and we're like, the show's so long, so we can really get into this topic, because everybody needs to be heard on this. I get it. I would be so hypocritical, because I was such a huge meat eater most of my life, to sit there and be like judging you for eating meat. I get it, man. I liked it. It was tasty. I got it. So no, that's really what it was about. I just liked the taste of it. And I always just kind of decompartmentalized it. In other words, I would go to like a petty. Chris, again, man, that's like the 20th time you've interrupted me.
You can kick me. Kick me.
No, I just want you to show good manners. That's it. You just
got to put it on mute. That's all.
Exactly. Plants are also alive, and that's what we see. Our reality is plants are also alive, and they're just as alive as animals. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But there's not really a difference
they're not.
between us and the animals, or us and the plants.
Plants are not sentient. Do you see how she still wants to justify it? Plants are not sentient.
We're gonna put it. You guys can go bring this back up.
They don't have spinal cords. They have no sense.
Take this
so she wants the last word on it.
No, I know.
Vegan warrior. It's a reason why I picked that name, vegan warrior. I fight for the rights.
I'm a light warrior, buddy.
Incorrectly. I mean, inappropriately.
But it's fundamentalism.
Well, it may be, but if it was children being eaten, I would be the same way. I would be the children warrior. You know what I mean? When you take someone's life
in this world
for unjust reasons, I mean that's my approach to dealing with the fact of cruelty. Because there's a lack of compassion in this world. There's a lack of empathy in this world, and it's a lot of cruelty in this world. And it starts with what you put on your plate. It starts with what you put on your plate. Bottom line, people think it's about sexism or racism or whatever, or religious. But if you go back to the matter, it's all about what we consume. And once we can consume death, we can institute and apply death on other living things, to include ourselves. That's the way I see it. So I think the heart of saving humanity has to do with the things we put in our mouth. first. That's the way I see it.
All right, I'm done now. We're gonna end this. I'm gonna hit the button, but I want to go off on a happy, positive note. Let's go over to the Discord room. We'll do this another night
show you
when
my
we
cat.
can give this a fair chance. And yeah, you can show us your cat. Cats are always a good place to be. I'm sorry if I almost lost my crap there for a minute, but I'm pulling back. And guys, this is like a lesson of control and
Composure, Dr. Terry.
composure. And I think it's smart because this could have gone another way. We could have ended up just screaming at each other and breaking down completely. But we thanks to the maturity of everybody, they pull back and they go, okay, I hear you. I'm going to listen to your views. And I think it's important to see that because not everything's going to be clean. This is, this is going to be a process where we're going to have some problems. You can't ever get a group together and everybody's going to agree on stuff. It's not going to happen. So we have to find peaceful solutions on how to get along with stuff that we don't agree with and how to work on the common stuff we do agree with, where we can work together. And that's what this is going to be a lesson in. So, oh my gosh, DMT throwing $5 at the end there. Thanks for coming by. Where's he been all night? Thank you, DMT.
Good discussions you got to pay for.
That's it. Well, I'm just blown away by all the love and charity. Everybody's it's just. Ugh. So I just want you guys to know I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm trying just like y'all, and for y'all to see this. For y'all to see this go down like this, then hopefully you can relate.
We're not going down.
No, because we did lose our composure more than any other show I've seen, and we pulled it back, which I'm glad. But it's just been kind of all night of that, and I think it's important, but again, it just goes back to respect. So we're all going to be cool with each other when this is done. So let's bring this over to the Discord room. I'm going to close this up and say thank you, guys. Thank you for your support. And remember, stay positive, be nice to each other, be nice to your cat. Right? Go support each other. Did I miss that one too? I don't know. Last words, you want a second, and don't turn this into a debate. Just say something nice. Go off. You guys want to say anything?
Real quick? Thank you, Dr. Taryn, for hosting this. And by the way, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Like the way we evolve, do you think like this is going to become a coast to coast type of experience? Because you've been broadening. That's not a word.
All right, I'll take this question. The thing is eventually we're going to get to the point where we've talked everything there is to say about the Mandela effect. We're going to get to a point where I've heard every theory, we've heard every which way to go, and we'll just say, okay, what are we going to do with this show now? Because 6 months from now, you're going to be like, oh yeah, there's that idea again, and here's that idea again. Right now, it's still new and fresh to a lot of people, so this is like exciting. I think in order, I don't know where we should go with this, because there's people coming in every day that are frightened and confused. And I think we need a lot of us out there to lend a hand to help them say, you have a choice. You can go to fear land or you can go to empowerment land. Right. And I want to keep that door open for new people. And like I said, I don't really have a very difficult message. I'm like, be nice to each other, support each other. That's it. I'm a broken record. Don't be a jerk. Be nice to each other. And I don't know how long that carries out to a show. I would like to keep going, Ouroboros, but I would think we're going to have to probably expand the subject of this show more than the Mandela effect at some point, because I'll look in the chat. We'll be talking about Mandela effect, and people will be like, or no, we'll go off topic, and people in the chat will be like, get back to the Mandela effect. And, so I don't know if people want that or are ready for it, but I think
they will. I think
eventually
they'll
we're going
evolve
to
with it.
What'd you say?
I think they'll evolve with it.
Yeah, I think they'll burn out eventually of talking just about this one topic all night and every day.
No, it'll just be
we'll talk it out,
because it's already becoming an evolution, like in the actual chats with the people who are frequenting them. I mean, we're actually not talking a whole lot about Mandela effects as much as, like, I mean, yeah, still referring to it, sharing videos, sharing pictures, but aside from, it's like turning into other topics. It's turning into the things that, like, as I said, the beginning of whenever it was I start talking here, was I think the Mandela effect actually is just one piece of a larger phenomenon. It's not the whole. It's actually just a signifier, and it's kind of just seems to be I saw someone in chat say the gateway. Yeah, it's kind of the gateway to, like, the larger discussions. It's a gateway to the larger understandings.
I agree.
Yeah, so I see what you guys think as panelists. I mean, I don't know if you want, because, you know, when we go talk about this in the chat rooms, it just goes natural places all over the place. But when I do it on my show, there's some flack back sometimes in the chat room. People will be like, get back to it, you guys are drifting. And it's like, I don't know if all you want to do is talk about Mandela effect for
when I listened to your internationalist panel, I was like, wow, this is like a philosophical discussion. If you really think about it, you're grabbing all these elements, and maybe in the future, if you want to ride off of, you know, this type of idea, call it the great conversation. Something, you know, something pithy. If you ever want to evolve away from this, all I got to say is I'm definitely down to be a panelist, because I think what you're doing here is fascinating, the way you're grabbing all these different personalities and all these different perceptions. And yeah, we are discussing the human nuance, but we're discovering a lot of things that we wouldn't come across without each other having this discourse.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of wanted to do an experiment of all of us have different ideas. Like, I have Christian people, science people. Heck, I'm bringing on a Muslim panel. I want to talk to everybody and show that you can be respectful and learn something from everyone. And this is going to be a living example on my show. You know, we're gonna put our differences aside and start finding common ground. So that's the game plan. Again, we'll just have to talk this through. Right now, there's still plenty of Mandela stuff we can do, and I can bring on interesting guests. But, you know, 6 months from now, a year from now, who knows where this show will be, man? We'll probably have to go all over the place and discuss whatever we want, because
we'll be living together, man, in our own community somewhere. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Actually, I totally want to get one of those Ubuntu people to come on, but I cannot get one. They seem to be hard to find.
Was talking about all of that.
We won't be part of the control mechanism, and we'll have our own life and be blissful, and yeah, be awesome.
Project, huh?
Is that what?
sort of, but not kind of. The robots will run the world, which I don't agree with either.
Yeah. We'll have to figure all that out, because you know, I'm so libertarian at heart that it's going to be the quickest way to kill something is to control it. You know, it has to evolve naturally, and people are going to gravitate. And it's true. Like, if I example is the chat room. When you go over to the chat room tonight, the Discord, you'll see there's different groups, because some of the people don't want to hear a Christian message, and some of the people want to speak nothing but a Christian message, and some of the people just want to talk about, you know, a little bit of, you know, you have to provide different groups for different people to talk, so everybody gets what they want. If you try to force everybody into one thing, nobody gets what they want. And that's kind of
there'll always be a common denominator, though, and also people outside, which is personal perception. But there'll always be a common denominator when it comes down to the way to live.
Yeah, and that's it. Is oh, speaking of, I meant to tell you guys one last thing I forgot to say. I am going to have another show Tuesday. My Tuesday night shows are more liberty oriented, and I do try to talk about empowerment, but they're very much less Mandela Effect stuff. Tuesday will be about how to use technology to empower yourself, how to get out of the system so much. So we're going to talk about cryptocurrencies, how to take away the power of the governments that are doing all these evil things, how not to support them, and use your own currency. You know, there's lots of ways around these things. How to use 3D printers to help raise the vibration of humanity, do good things with 3D printers. how to, you know, all these cool technologies that are in play right now that you probably don't know that all this cool stuff's going on with. And so we're going to talk about how to use and all the cool, neat technology that you might not have heard about to live a more positive life and bring your vibration up. So I hope you join me on the Tuesday night show. It should be really interesting.
Do you have enough panelists for that?
If you bring something technological to the table, I can let you on. But it works like this. I've got a few that I'm trying to get. Cody Wilson. He was the first guy to 3D print. You might know him from. He was the first guy to 3D print a gun, and then like it was supposed to be, you know, kind of an FU to gun laws, that anyone could be able to print up their own gun and defend themselves. And then he ended up turning over to doing something called Dark Wallet, which is like a completely encrypted wallet that you can keep cryptocurrencies in. So you can have financial freedom without, you know, having to report every single thing you spend. And that's going to be an interesting topic. I think I'm going to have a Bitcoin guy on. I'm going to have Anarchy Mike about encryption technology, how to encrypt just your phone and what you should be doing to be able to talk to each other without just openly giving your information away for data mining. Positive things that you can do in your life that that kind of help at least not offer the powers that be everything you have on a silver platter. You know, make it a little hard. So that's what it is. Hopefully you guys can join that show on a Tuesday. That'll be a lot of fun. If you guys, speaking to my panelists now, if you want to be on it, you can come on as later on in the show and jump in. But I do have a couple set guests already.
I may do that. That sounds interesting.
It sounds like quite a good social conversation. The implication socially.
It's important because this is what I was talking about in the first hour of my guest is, you know, you can spend all this power fighting the system, and then you're going to wind up in a negative place, defeated and pissed off that you can't do anything about trying to change a broken system or save a system, where it's much more empowering to just go around the system and create other alternatives completely outside of this. The system's going to collapse on its own. It doesn't need fighting with. You just need to be going around it and prepared and come out of a good place.
Yeah, we're at our own community.
Well, that's it. This time, I promise, I've said it for like 4 times in a row. I'm ending the show, and we've got another hour.
It's almost 1.
Love you guys. I'm out of here. I'm tired. Good night.
All right.
Take care of each other. Be nice. Bye, Vegan. Bye. Bye, Lindsay.
Nice.
Bye.
So are we chatting afterwards or what?
Yeah, I'm going to the Discord
Bye,
room. Let's post. Can you
right,
guys
invite me.
make sure, moderators, would you post the Discord links? And I will put them in the description for anybody that catches this on the rerun. You'll see them in there. All right. See you guys.